Hello, everybody. Welcome in, and happy Monday. I hope y'all are having a good Monday. I had to stop and think about what day it was for a sec, just a split second. Welcome in. Let me know in the chat if you guys can hear me and all systems go. It's been a minute since I've been in here. It appears to be working just fine. Welcome in, Tricia. Thank you for coming on in. Thank you to the mod team for being here. I appreciate you guys coming in to help mod the show. I'll wait for some indication in chat if y'all can see me, hear me rather, hear me. Thank you. Thank you, Butterfly. All right, guys, let everybody just kind of ease into getting in here. I'm still sipping coffee. I attempted to get up early, which I did twice, and went back to sleep both times. I was like, I'm not even, whatever it is, it'll wait, right? I was cold, so I had to stay in the bed where I was warm. After complaining for a week and a half, 2 weeks about being hot, I was cold. So I hope you guys that got impacted by this blizzard, I hope you guys are doing well. I felt a little bit of that, like not, I didn't feel what you guys felt, but I felt that wind come down my way, and it was like a relief here for us, but you guys were getting pounded. So I hope that everybody stayed safe and has your power and all the good things to make life easy this morning. We don't want to see anybody struggling. Guys, it was kind of an eventful weekend. Well, an eventful Sunday. Let me put it that way. But I was able to get some research in and really try to hone in on some good conversations outside of the headlines, right? The can you believe this and can you believe that conversation, because it don't take much to have those kinds of conversations. So I was looking for the deeper, right? Looking for the please ask this, please discuss that. And I found a few. So we're going to talk about some of that this morning. And I'm also going to show you guys one reason why I'm super careful about what I put out onto my stream, about who, when it's the right time to do it, and why I avoid doing it like I have in this case of certain individuals. Because I am a product of the Idaho 4 case. And if we didn't learn anything from past cases, I don't know what we're even doing here. That's the way, from a creator to creator standpoint, I don't know why. So I'm going to show you guys if it lets me show you. If not, I'll have to read it to you because I'm not Idaho statesman, man. They're a little funny over there with their business. Okay. Let me see if I can get this to pull up on screen like it was doing this morning 3 times when I tried it. Because okay, yes, we want to do that. All right, now, all right, let me see if I can get this up here to share. And I want to talk about this first because I want to get it out of the way because it is important. But it gives you guys, when I keep telling y'all I don't want to be in a court document, this and that, I wasn't playing because I knew what I was talking about. And I hate to come out and say, see, I told you so. I knew what I was talking about kind of person, but I did try to say it. And boy, was I baited to do it anyway. All right. A Texas woman who a judge ruled defamed a University of Idaho professor when she accused her on social media of orchestrating the November 22 college student murders in Moscow, will learn how much her false public claims are going to cost her this week. Miss Ashley was a TikToker, by the way. Ashley Gillard, a TikTok personality who has claimed she has psychic abilities, is due in federal court in Boise starting Tuesday for a scheduled trial to finally resolve the 3-year-old civil suit brought by Rebecca Schofield. Who's Rebecca Schofield, you might ask? A professor at the University of Idaho who was absolutely targeted, and the whole world on TikTok was told, here's your real killer. Okay. The case has outlived the criminal prosecution of the man convicted last summer. U.S. Magistrate Judge Raymond Patrico already ruled for Schofield in June of 2024, and now it's left to a jury to decide the financial damages owed by the TikToker. Schofield previously asked for more than $1.8 million. A trial is set to last up to 4 days and center around the toll Gillard's claims caused to Schofield's personal life and academic career. Expert witnesses expected to testify include Schofield's therapist for the past 2 years and a public relations specialist to speak to the reputational harm caused by the Harvard educated history professor. All right, so the TikToker is 41 years old. She's out of Houston. She published more than 100 videos that made erroneous allegations against Schofield. The accusations included that the U of I professor had a romantic relationship with one of the four victims and ordered their deaths to prevent the affair with a female student from becoming public. And boy, I lived through all of that nonsense. Schofield, 40, of Moscow, was sent a cease and desist letter to Gillard, or the professor sent it to the TikToker. That the TikToker, the demands were ignored. Okay. So in late December 2022, Schofield, represented by her lawyer, Wendy Olson, what a familiar name, yes, former U.S. Attorney for Idaho, sued Gillard in federal court. Schofield contends the allegations have led to post-traumatic stress disorder diagnosis on top of considerable professional leadership or hardship. Now, I get it. The cops never gave anybody indication, go look at this lady. Like, her home wasn't raided and things of that nature. But there's always finger pointing in the community. There's always creators that will come out and dead ass point a finger at somebody without any verification, except they know they're about to crank the internet. And cranks aren't exclusive to Delphi. They never have been. Some of them are finding out right now that I've known for a long time. Why, eyes wide open. You better get to know me a little better. If you think I don't know, that's where you made your first mistake. 9 days later, Brian Kohberger, a Washington State University graduate student in Pullman, Washington, just west of the Idaho border, was arrested and charged with the murders. After 2.5 years of legal proceedings, he pled guilty in June of 2025 to killing four of these students, or killing the four students. In agreement with the prosecutors to drop the death penalty, Kohberger, we know all that. Okay, so he was charged. Yes, I did it. And none of that crazy Rick Allen, maybe on drugs kind of thing happening over there. I fucking straight up did it in a court of law with the entire world watching, even though they want to say I was scared to say I didn't really do it, whatever, stupid shit. Explain it. So anyway, this is the fallout from stuff like that. And this is not the first and only time it's happened. It has happened in other cases. I've tried to point that out a couple of times during streams. Well, this podcast was subpoenaed, or this was said, this is being done. But it's like it just gets, that's not enough controversy to talk about today. I don't know. So there's my point of being that you don't want to go out there and just start pointing fingers. And when we go to the mainstream media and we say, how can we trust their sources? But yet, a live streamer has a random guy walk up from the street and tell us about a name and a niece, and it broke the internet. Nobody bothered to find out how you got that information. Can we verify it? Did we not care because it came from the streets? And that's better information than an FBI source. I don't know. Society is weird. And because of this case right here, these four victims who are still being drugged to this day on the internet, being blamed for their own deaths, is why I fight hard for victims. It didn't start because I felt bad for Kay Woodcock. My heart broke for Kay Woodcock, but I paid attention to every single word the woman said, and I tried to retain it. Just saying, you have to be careful on these streets, and y'all know when I tell y'all that. That's why. How many people watched the TikToks. I know how many were watching those TikToks and how many got behind that theory until it wasn't a theory anymore. Then it shifted to, oh, the cartel, big bad cartel. They got their own, y'all ain't noticed, they got their own business to deal with on the other side of the border, right? Cartels don't do this stuff. Well, not here anyway, like this, unless they had a rogue guy who wanted to go see what it was like to be a psychopath for a day. Different kind of psychopath. Anyway, I wanted to get that little last minute thing out of the way that I know it came down. I think I saw that last night. And I have been keeping up with that stuff, so it was interesting to me. And I don't want to be in a lawsuit. One of these guys gets woke up that morning and they got a phone call from an attorney going, hey, because we got Carlos' attorney talking, and I'm listening. We're listening. Y'all want me to give y'all my recap on yesterday's events? I was quite entertained yesterday. I mean, Friday and Saturday, I was battling dehydration. So Saturday, I was just like, no, not doing anything. I got to chill and I got to rest. And that's what I did. And I was doing some research and doing different things and thinking a lot. And then Sunday came and I was like, whoa, got entertained quite a bit. How many of y'all were watching yesterday's events unfold, play out on live YouTube? Anybody in the chat? Okay. Some of y'all may have. I don't know. I don't know what y'all were doing yesterday. Some of y'all might have took a big old break from all of this, right? Because we got to touch grass sometimes. My God, this stuff is going to make our heads explode if we don't. Hey, 83. Search party. Yep, there was a little search party that happened. That was eventful. So here's my take on what happened yesterday. There were search parties a search party that they had been talking about for a couple of days, right? They met at the local Hobby Lobby there. One of the groups leave on foot, followed by JLR Investigates, as most of you probably know. And another group takes off in a car, and then the third guy gets on his motorcycle and goes his own way. Because he doesn't want to film what he's out there doing, which, let that sink in for a minute. He didn't want to film what he was doing, and I agree with it, because when people were out searching and going into private property looking for Sebastian Rogers, unorganized searches, what if you walk up on an individual in the woods or a body while you're live streaming it? Do you shut it off immediately, or do you continue filming? That should be a moral compass thing you ask yourself, right? But anyway, I guess that's a whole other show. The people who went off on foot found a backpack, and I'm gotta wonder, is there a homeless man searching for his backpack now? Yikes. Could he file a police report on that? And we are also told, if you're going to go out there and search, please do not pick up, touch, or move items. Please don't do that. And then after the item's found, they're like, oh, I hope I didn't mess it up. You might have. You might have. Now, so they go down in the ravines and they're looking into the big tunnels and the drainage ditches, and there's definitely a homeless camp in there and some chairs set up. And they see that, but yet they find a backpack there. And it gets picked up by this giant stick and walked up here for everybody to see. I know something dropped out of it. So my question, my answer to that, defense attorney coming in right now. So did it fall off her stick and just kind of like dangle on the backpack until it got to the landing place by the cop car? Did it, what about it? A searcher found it and moved it. That's a problem, period. And I'm not trying to be ugly. I want logic to enter the building. If the cops had done their job and just searched in the first place, would they have found that backpack? Would they have stole a homeless man's backpack? And I'm going to go on a limb and say, was it stolen from a homeless person? Or was it found? My problem is it was moved. If this had been the backpack, you got a problem with it now. Yeah, like I live in a small part of Northwest Florida, guys, and I didn't grow up in the sheltered country. The Pensacola is not a huge city, but guess what? We're gonna see in certain areas homeless camps, homeless people. I think every city has this issue. Um, Larger cities are probably going to have a way more of an issue, right? We've seen that. Butterfly, even down there around the Lady Bird Lake area, when we were deep trying to figure out what's going on around Lady Bird Lake, all the homeless camps that are just right there, holy shit, tons of them, right? So that again, if it was, even if it was a part of the crime, there's a problem now. That's my point. When you just set out to search, guess what you're gonna find? All kinds of stuff, right? But you never know what's there and what's not, right? So that's why you don't want to touch it. So I thank them for trying, and I thank them for going out there and putting their eyes on the ground. But y'all are, what you're looking for versus what you should have been looking for, I think may have been two different things. And I would have liked to have seen a little bit of a actual people with knowledge about searches maybe trying to handle some of that. It might have went down a little better because resources were called in, right? Once these items are found. They even found another random glove. I don't care. I honestly don't want to hear another word about another glove. Takes up the resources. But yes, if you see it out there, then do it and try to inform your searchers about grids and different things, and don't touch all those things. You know, so that's all they found. And it was a very small group of searchers on foot. The other search party, the guy that left in the car, I think 10 minutes in, maybe 15 minutes in, he got in a car accident and totaled his car. I hope everybody was okay, including the innocent people who were hit or got pulled out in front of, because he said it was his fault. Again, more resources called. EMTs, fire, maybe cops. I don't know. Then, two women from the private search party group from Mexico, God bless their hearts, show back up over on Nancy's property. And they enter private property. Now, they had been cheered on for a week by people on the street in front of Nancy's house. Well, by most of them. Then when the cops came back, when the neighbor called the cops, they're on the property and they're digging. And I saw it all with my own eyes. It's not hearsay. I go do my research, as painful as it might be. I do it. I take one for the team often. Don't I, Stefan Stearns? I had to see your fucking junk. But it's okay. I'll do it time and time again for victims. And I won't go, ew, not me. I'll do it for a victim. Cops have to do it all the time. Anyway, I'll get myself sidetracked, and I know it. So the women do go up onto the property between Nancy's house and the neighbor to the right, gym show people. And they dig a little bit and they move a couple of rocks. So when the cops do get called, they go straight to that house and interview those people. So it's obvious they called the police. It's not, that shouldn't even be a question. But it apparently was a big, who called the cops kind of question. Can you get onto the real problems at hand? Anyway, So when the cops are coming back from the neighbor's house and they're walking toward the area the ladies entered, guess what happens? They were right there digging. They were right there digging. Oh, y'all throwing them under the bus now. Now you're telling it. You're snitching now. But yesterday it was, God, thank you for being here and searching. What are you looking for on the property? What are you poking for? And today it's like, yep, that's where they were digging. Let's get it on camera now. And now, if they come back, they're going to get a no trespassing citation. Because you cannot enter private property. I don't even understand why we're still digging around Nancy's property at the moment. Because if there was unearthed dirt, fresh dirt from that night in the shallow grave, I think somebody would have found it by now. It won't be discovered today, right? So some of this is getting a little out of hand. And I feel like if we don't say that when we see that, I don't want to be a part of the problem. I want to be able to talk about this stuff fairly and evaluate it fairly without being come at. Like, do you even care they were searching? Well, of course I care. But if it was my missing loved one, please do it correctly. And for all those people coming at Savannah, why isn't she out there searching? If it was my mom, I'd be searching, would you? Because you don't want to become the focus and the spectacle to follow. Could you imagine if Savannah got out there in her snake boots and her gear and set off on foot to do a grid search for her mama? How many fucking cameras would be following her? Not to see if she found her mother, but to show you Savannah's finally looking. If I was her, I would not step foot onto anybody's property trying to search. Now, would I call in my own private people? Maybe I would in a fucking heartbeat. But that's me. I don't know what her reasons for not doing certain things are and for doing others really are, right? I don't think any of us can pretend to know. And I say pretend because I see a lot of pretending going on the internet. If that was my mama, if that was my... Do y'all even talk to your mama today? Some of the ones I'm seeing with these sick ass, if that was my mom, not in my chat. Don't let me, please, let me back it up, Salty. Not in my chat. Other chats where they're just flying and flying. If it was my mama, if it was my mama. Can y'all be honest? When's the last time you talked to your mama? What'd you say to her when you did? Were you asking for something else? Right? I mean, we're not all out here with hearts of gold just loving up on our mamas and taking care of them like they're angels. So people with their fake personalities can stop it. JLR finally got a tent and a prime piece of real estate. It just took them a minute to get it up, but they got it. So maybe, I don't know if he's got it up today, but another YouTube podcaster apparently felt a little some kind of way. They needed some shade, so he got a tent so everybody in the chat could calm down about that. Several donations went through to go buy a tent, but somebody was nice enough to bring them one. They didn't have to go buy anything. So I don't know if he's got his tent up there today or not to save from the sunburn or not. Maybe, maybe not. Y'all do you. So that's my gist of yesterday's antics, I'm going to call it. From sun up until sundown. That's what happened. All on one live stream. But again, entertaining to say the least. And I appreciate the visuals and the mute button. So I got the recap of yesterday out of the way, for those who think I don't know, and the WSU TikTok lawsuit thingy. By the way, WSU's lawsuit is still progressing, and I'm here for it. Oh, WSU being sued, I should say. Not their lawsuit. When they're defending themselves in. I'm here for that one. $83. Oh, thank you, Joy, for sending a membership. Is that what that is? You gifted a membership, and did 83 receive it? Nice. Welcome, 83. we are glad you found the community. You've been showing up and joining the conversation, and we so appreciate that. Carrie, welcome in, hun. How are you? Jet, how are you? Some of us had great moms and we took care of them, right? Some, y'all know how it is. Y'all got that one friend, right? Tricio, welcome in. You got that one friend? Or you know that one person, right? Hey, TC Keith, welcome in. Working but listening as much as you can. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. So Joy, hey, how you doing? Shoveled ugly snow. Aw. I will help you. I denounce it too. Get out of there. Get out of my Joy friend's life, because we're all about the sunshine and joy in her world. And I've said, haven't I always said that? Her name just reminds me of sunshine and joy, Sujoy. And I'm like, So go away, Snow. We don't want you to bother our friend. I don't want to see anybody have to shovel that mess. It makes my bones hurt thinking about it. I survived hurricanes. I could not do blizzards. Total opposite. Total opposite. These high profile cases pop off. What makes them high profile? Da 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 da. No, who knows? Who knows? The cuteness of the person, the devastating effects of the crime, what the circumstances, like Lori Vallow missing kids, all these different things that happen. Vallow Daybell, Delphi, Idaho, which were popping off at the same time. Sebastian Rogers. Those are the most recent ones that I've covered that come to my mind. And how they can spin and spiral so fast and grow legs of their own. And then it becomes about all of that versus the case. And we kind of had that happen this past week because of the sheriff's word salad, which, completely over all that mess. And interestingly enough, I dove like Friday night. I started it a couple of days before because my girl Plunder, she's always bringing the goods, and she's got this case near her. She popped off with the audio, and we didn't know anything other than this police 911 call and how bizarre it was. And so I listened to it because I needed a break from the Nancy Guthrie case, and I was like, "Wow, that was interesting." Lo and behold, the next day or two, people on Twitter were catching hold, and people this and that, and I'm like, oh, okay, they're finally getting onto that weird case. Well, then I saw a video, and I was like, huh. I already got the documents in the case. I already know the backstory in that case. It's the Caleb Flynn, Ashley Flynn case, and out of Ohio. And so, and I had the court document, right? And then I watched that video, and I was like, whoa, nothing that person just told me is in that court document. And they put that video out like it was 1,000% fact. They even said, came according to court documents. And I was like, what? No way. That's not in the document. Where'd they get that from? So I went and did a little more research. They even named a person with a photo and their title. And I was like, what in the hell? Research didn't back it up. Paula also caught wind of that, I guess, because she did a video about it. I was like, damn, thank God. But that's how dangerous the misinformation can be in these cases. I saw one this morning. I'm not familiar with the channel. It's not like a podcast streamer. It's one of those AI generated type true crime documentary episode thingies. And the thumbnail alone was so disgusting, and what it was implicating was even more disgusting. I didn't even watch the video. But there are a lot of people out there who do watch those videos, and you can tell because you see them in chats showing up with that information, trying to tell you, well, what's up. So we have to be careful. And like I've said, every time something is presented to me, I do my best to try to verify it. How many other people are reporting this? How well do I trust this account? What do I know about this account that I've known for 2 to 3 years, right? It's a lot. My brain goes into, has too much going on sometimes. Too much. You screwed up the first part of that. What are you talking about, Jet? What did you do? Oh, your mom? My mom was in her late 60s when she passed. She had some medical problems, though. It's been a minute, but it's hard. It's hard when we lose our loved ones that we really cared for. And so many people do genuinely love and care for their people, right? We know there's people who don't, and that's is what it is. Now, y'all know that I've been on that mission to find out something. Can anybody, y'all know what that mission is in chat that y'all been around? And oh, by the way, everybody in the listening and not chatting, I appreciate y'all just as much as I do my chatters. And if y'all ever get comfortable and want to come join the conversation, you know we're here for it. We don't bite. Sometimes my sarcasm and willingness to debate may come off as, I don't mean for it to come off as anything, but hey, let's have an open debate, right? And be like adults, because I can hash it out with you, and hell, we can have a cup of coffee in a minute, or while we're doing it, I don't care. I got mad respect for the debaters. It's like, show me what you got, man. Show me what you got. I don't always get down with the niceties. Like, that's too fake it. That's like too mainstream media fakeish, right? Nothing but puppies and rainbows everywhere. Don't talk about evil things. All right. So y'all know where I've been trying to find information about? Anybody? Been driving me a little bit crazy that I wanted to see. My chat's delayed, so I'm giving y'all a minute. It always feels weird when it goes silent on a stream, but hell, I can't talk. Well, I can talk a lot, but I can't just continue nonstop. Hey, Nicole, welcome in. Yep, Jet. Some of y'all, I see my Jet when I go to certain chats. So we're going to get into it, Jet. You know where I'm going with this. Thank you, Jet. Ba-boom. What do we got here? We got a sliding glass door at the patio where Nancy liked to go sit and journal. This one's a little blurry. I didn't have the other ones on my phone. This one's on the PC. This is a large plate glass window. But here we have a sliding glass door. Now, what do y'all notice? What have we always noticed about that patio? Besides, we couldn't find out what kind of door it had. These images have just begun to come out on Fox News Digital. And the funny thing is, Jet, I was telling Butterfly, I found these early Saturday morning, right? Just researching, drinking my coffee. I set out to find these damn pictures if they were out there. Lo and behold, I found them. And then when I tuned into the show last night, they found them too. I was like, damn it, man. I even did put it in my Discord to the mods. I found this backsliders. Like, damn it. But anyway, doesn't matter. We finally figured it out. But it let me know I'm on the right path. And I was right to be curious about what was going on over there on that patio. But what else did we notice about the patio that we've always known about the patio? That wall. Now, anybody physically capable can scale that little pony wall, right? We know Nancy can't climb over the wall to exit the home unless she's lifted, picked up, and put over the wall. Was that the TARP plan, Butterfly? You listening? Well, not like, are you listening? Are you there? I know you had some things going on today. Is what I meant by that. Going back to our discussion, why bring a tarp, right? What? I can get behind you did, but why would you? Now I got to figure out why would you? See, one question leads to another. I would probably drive all the investigators on the team totally fucking mad. Not like mad at me, but insane. They're like, man, you got too many questions, Inspector Gadget. All right. Was that the point of entry? Now, if you look at the photos that we could find, again, like O'Connell points out, no busted glass that we can tell. Now, in this one image, it appears that slider is slightly open, but then again, that slider was slightly open in the Idaho 4 house. So I'm not going to make anything of it because I don't know when it got opened. When it got slid slightly open, is that just the screen part that I see slightly open, not the actual glass door? See, I can't verify that it's open, even. But it appears at least the screen is partially open. I have to wonder how well of a lock mechanism did that have? Because in Idaho 4, we don't know. Dylan doesn't remember if they locked the slider that night. We usually did, but not that night. We don't know if it was locked or not. But here's my issue with that. Those old ass houses and those flimsy ass doors, you could literally walk up to one that's locked and snatch it and it's going to pop open, because my uncle had one in the 1970s on his home on the water, and we did it all the time. Pops right open. But so my mama put a big giant, like butterfly and I spoke about, those breaker bars, or a burglar bar type stick, even long ass stick. My mom always she made my uncle start keeping something there to force that door to stay shut, because of how easily we could open that door while it was locked, from a home built in the 70s. Nancy's house is old. I'm not saying they didn't secure their mother well enough, because stop it with that conversation, at least for now. How'd they get in? We don't know. If we knew more about it, as far as profiling the individual or individuals, that would help. And if we don't think the FBI hasn't considered all of that, especially the behavioral unit analysis people, they have to consider it. Then, as the investigator, did you have a key if there's no forced entry? Do we believe that Nancy made it to her door and opened the door to her assailant in the night? I think a lot of us can rule out probably not. Probably did not open the door to go investigate or to see, what do you want at my front door with a mask on? Probably didn't happen. So was it a key entry, or did you pick the lock, as some have suggested, with your credit card? Or did you walk up and snatch open the slider? I don't know. Remember, I wondered if that slider, if that patio was sitting off of the primary bedroom or not. I still don't know. We can't tell from these images. That could be the dining room kitchen area for all I know, right? Considering where the fireplace is located. See, I think about all that stuff too. Where's the fireplace at? What do we got? We got a garage. We got a like main living room. Do we got a den? Do we got a family room? Do we got a dining room? Where's the kitchen? Too many questions, right? Because if that was the primary bedroom and Nancy's in that room asleep, with or without hearing aids, would she become aware when somebody pops the slider to come in? Right? That's why I wonder again what room that is. If it's not her bedroom and it's the den, the family room, the dining room, the kitchen, she's probably not going to hear it come open if she's in her another room, right? So I thought that was interesting, and I wanted to share with you guys about, we finally have clarification on how we know that damn patio, because there had to be a door to the patio. You just throw a patio off of a really nice house like that with a nice little suite layout and not give me access to my patio? What the hell's wrong with you, builder? Always knew it was a door, just didn't know what kind. French door, solid blue door, sliding glass door. You think it's the living room? Yeah, Rocket's thinking probably the living room. Hey, Lindsay. I don't like it either, Linz. Don't like it either. It's, it's absolutely fair to talk about the bad, right, that we can verify. But to just put out the disinformation that does these cases absolutely no good. No good whatsoever. It creates so much unnecessary drama. And y'all, we didn't learn nothing from Lauren's drama. I'm here to learn from my mistakes and everybody's around me and do better next time. If I go calling out horrible behavior and then I'm guilty of that same horrible behavior, I hope y'all call me out on it. Don't let me get away with that shit ever. Ever. Oh, see? Good. Exactly, Lindsay. I always say in these cases, what can we take away? Right? Like the thuds in the night. I check the thuds in the night now. Having a conversation with my, at the time, 17-year-old when Idaho 4 happened. What would you do if you heard this, this, and this? Call 911. Don't blow it off, right? There's always a talking point and a conversation that can be had. So now would be the prime time for everybody to reach out to their mothers, fathers, elderly parents, and make sure we're good to go and secure, right? And trust me, trying to teach my pawpaw how to use a cell phone. Oh my! And he was experiencing dementia at the same time. It was never going to happen the way I needed it to. But y'all know what I mean when they're living alone and they're independent. My dad is super independent. We're going to play hell getting him to come live with somebody when it's time. It's going to be that thing, right? And we all know it. So if they're strong minded and they're independent and can move around freely and easily with a cane, they have the absolute right to stay in their own home. And as I've explained to y'all before, everybody wanted to get like all weird about it. It's so dark out there. How dare they? Pensacola Beach, Florida is just as dark. It's light pollution. You're not allowed to have it. And there's y'all, they knew that when they moved out there. Some people choose to live in these areas for that reason. I can't stand walking outside here in the city and not being able to see the stars. When I'm in the country, I can walk outside and see every star in the sky, and it's beautiful. Big difference. Please don't litter my community up with a ton of lights that I don't need. Nancy had floodlights in the backyard, but someone decided it would be okay to go into her property and destroy her floodlights. So can I blame the person who took her for causing her insecurity in her own home? So yeah, maybe it's y'all do it. Y'all go out there and make sure that they got all that they need, right? Yeah, Lindsay, I expect people to call me out because I might, say something to you, but I don't mean it like hateful bitch kind of thing, right? It's like, let's just have dang, got to look in the mirror sometimes and own our stuff. Remember? That became a thing to say, kind of like when it became a thing to claim to be an empath and get people to pay you money to teach you how to be a better empath. Um, oh my God. Scam artist alert. Scam artist alert. Let me, you empaths, pay me to teach you to be a better empath. Only thing that can teach an empath to be a better empath is a whole lot of energy work that goes incredibly deep and beyond the surface of what you discussed in your cutesy pie little video. Anyway, back on track. Back on track. Some people don't appreciate being called out, though, do they? They're like, ah. All right. So let me move forward on my notes here because I got some bigger things that I want to talk about other than people getting tense for their live streams. They don't get sunburnt or whatever. Oh, and apparently food deliveries still keep coming. Poor little girl ain't got a clue to what's going on. She's young, probably trying to get her way through college, probably maybe have a child to support. Don't know what the hell she just drove up into. I'm just here to deliver this damn big old bag of Wendy's. And I think somebody was still delivering food this morning. I think from the amount of funds being received, nobody's going hungry. Nobody is going hungry. Except maybe the homeless guy who got his backpack stolen, because he might have had some snacks in there. I can't help being a smartass sometimes, y'all. It's just too much fun. Especially when I got to contend with Nanos' crazy ass. So, Lord, please forgive us, because here we go. Y'all ignore him for a moment. Don't, this is not about, oh my God, watch it. It's about what he says specifically, and then what somebody else we're going to look at says specifically about your little DNA mixture. Because I've said from the beginning, what's wrong with the DNA? Because when it was confirmed, according to Nanos, the blood on the front porch was used to sample, came back positive to Nancy. What about the blood in the house? Was there blood in the house? Did that blood also come back positive to Nancy? We don't know, because we only have confirmation that the blood outside was. Okay, so what about the DNA in the house? What's wrong with it? And as more trickled out over what the past week and a half, I've continued to say, well, what's wrong with the DNA? The glove. We found a glove 2 miles away. We're going to extract DNA and match it to the crime scene. What DNA from the crime scene? Okay, doesn't match, apparently. All we do know is it no hits in CODIS. How can you compare it to the crime scene if you got a mixture that you don't even understand yet? So you weren't, that's a lie. Doesn't match the crime scene. You don't know what you got at the crime scene. So keep that in mind. So let's play a little bit of what Nano said to NBC, because apparently maybe there's somebody local that works for the local NBC affiliate, and they're like good friends with the sheriff, had an entire lifelong relationship, my uncle, granny, sister, brother, cousin shit. Who knows? Everybody's trying to figure out, why is he talking to NBC? It's not rocket science, in my opinion. Apparently, somebody he knows from a local NBC affiliate is making all that happen, is my guess. My best streetwise educated guess. I know Brian Enton's like, why are you letting NBC interview you and not me? Because he doesn't want you to interview him, Brian. He wants to interview you about what you've been putting out about him. He's a little intimidated by you, Brian. I love Brian Enton, but sometimes you're a little slow to the go, baby boy. Just a tiny bit. I saw it a couple times. I'm like, what? What? But then again, I'm seeing a lot of good people that I respect and loving their conversations that also are missing some of the facts they hadn't got back to yet, right? And you can tell it's happening in real time. And I'm like, this is so interesting to me. It's so fucking fascinating, that part of it. Let me see what you say in here, Jet. Could there be a gag order that we don't know about? Seriously doubt it, because some question why we have not heard of Nancy's friends. We have. I just read an article the other day. Interview Rooms found the same article. Well, actually, Karen found the article, and all Karen said was, here's the date the article was issued. Go find it. I said, hold on, ma'am. You know me too well. All you had to do was drop me one clue, and she knew it. Not like she was talking to me directly, but she was talking to people like me. And I said, hold my beer. And I found the article. Now, police statements, right? We're not going to get any of that yet. This is an ongoing investigation. Nobody's been charged with a crime. The minute that happens, FOIA requests would start happening. People would be trying to get everything, the body cams, the police reports, everybody you talk to, the incident number, all of that, right? Would be, I mean, people are going to be like, gimme, gimme, gimme. There's nothing to gag order yet. You know what I'm saying? There's not a document. There's just statements. Now, the friends are not suspicious to me at all. I got a group of elderly women who were gathering to watch a church service, right? Routine church service. And then they called to notify the family that she wasn't there yet. I don't know what's suspicious about that. They were never suspicious. The sheriff made it suspicious with his stupid word salad. I'll have to find it. I do have it. I'll Yeah, I got it saved on my folder where for that day's stream. Um, but we read it here. I did read it aloud, and Karen also read it aloud. I think it was last week when we discovered it, or this past week, right? So the friends also stated that Nancy liked to go on the patio to journal, that Nancy wore hearing aids, um, that she began to stay home more because of her inability to walk up the stairs to get to the movie theater they enjoyed. We got to know a little bit more about Nancy Guthrie through her friends, because somebody finally took the time to talk to them and put it out there. Fortunately, Karen found it, because I'd already been trying to find that information. We found a couple of brief articles about, reports where she didn't go to church. But then we found out these friends were involved. And then everybody wanted to turn on these friends, like, well, they did it then. If we can't blame it on tomato, or it was them church friends. They're not even in my theories at all at this point. But it was a very interesting article, Jet. And informative, right? Because I've been wanting to try to get to know Nancy, the victim. And apparently there was nothing in her life, victimology wise, that set eyes on her, except for one thing: her daughter. And we'll get there to that discussion. All right, so I'm gonna get some fresh coffee too while this is going. This is Nanos in his interview with NBC. Just listen to what he's saying about the DNA. And then we're going to move into the next piece I have saved with my timestamps ready to go, because I'm not trying to be the Hot Mess Express today. And we're going to hear some elaboration on this DNA and some couple of interesting things that were pointed out that the minute it was said, I was like, ho, 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 why wasn't this said a week ago? Maybe we wouldn't be sitting here, but we'll get to that in a minute. All right, guys, let me get the screen up here for you. First, let me fix my scene. Sometimes I hate being producer. Sometimes I think they were right. We need a Grayson. No, I don't need the devil's den. Sometimes I don't like doing all this stuff on the back end. It's like I enjoyed going to Publicly Buzz last time, because I got to just sit there and talk. It was so nice. Okay, let me get the screen up. I don't mind. I want to talk about key things and not the blah, 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 blah of it all. All right, come here. All right, so this is going to be that interview again. I've been listening, like I said, pay attention to the DNA parts, okay? Let me mute myself out while I get the coffee.
Was taken from her Tucson home. Investigators are still searching for clues.
It's never fast enough for the sheriff. I want it like you. Come on, guys, let's go, let's find her. But the reality is I also know that sometimes things take time.
Late Friday, Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos sat down with NBC.
Sound good? Everything good to go in the chat? I think it is. What am I getting messages about? I don't know. Let me see. I have no idea, Rachel, if that's the right one or not. I'll look in a minute. Yeah. I don't want to get. Oh, good Lord. Not you, Rachel. Something else. A different message. Okay. You have to read it Rachel, I don't know. I don't know. So anyway, we'll get the link, Jet. What I'll do later after the show, let me make a note. I'll find the actual article because I got it saved here on the PC, and I'll have to link it in the community tab. I'm trying to get better at posting stuff there for you guys with updates if there's anything breaking and I'm not live or at home to even do anything about it. So let me write a note. Okay. That way you can access it because I want you guys to be able to access it and read it as well. That's important, right? Okay. Thank you, Forrest. All right, sound is good. I'm going to hit play again while I get my coffee. And yeah, y'all just get your headache medicine ready. I don't know.
News to take stock of the investigation so far.
Are there names you're looking into?
No.
Would you say the investigation is growing or shrinking?
In terms of leads and working and getting out there, I think that's still growing, yeah.
A big break in the case, this Nest camera footage released 11 days ago, showing a suspect on Guthrie's doorstep the night of the kidnapping.
I think we're getting a little closer to identifying some of the other articles, not just that backpack, like the shoes, the pants, the shirt or jacket.
Another key lead, unknown DNA found inside the Guthrie home, potentially belonging to the suspect. Nano says the samples are mixed, meaning they contain DNA from more than one person, making it harder to run through national databases.
Our lab tells us that there's challenges with it. The technology is moving so fast and in such a frenzy that they think some of this stuff will resolve itself just in a matter of weeks, months, or maybe a year.
21 days in, no arrests, no named suspect, and still no sign of Nancy.
What's your message to the Guthrie family?
We're not quitting. We'll find her, yeah.
Aaron McLaughlin, NBC News, Tucson.
Okay, so it sounds to me he don't know a whole lot of what he's talking about to begin with. He's getting a little preliminary report from somebody at the end of the day. Or just let's give the sheriff a little something. He has no idea how to explain it. He has no idea how to articulate it in such a way other than it could take a year. It makes it sound like there's a problem with that lab. And everybody, well, they should have sent it to Quantico. Eventually, we're going to find out a little bit more as to why it didn't go there to start with. I've tried to explain a little bit more about mixtures using the Idaho 4 case as an example because I read every single document from the court on that very subject. The single source male DNA that came from the button snap was separate than a mixture found on the sheath. The mixture contained 2 of the victims' blood, Maddie and Kaylee. The third was from a male source, but there was not enough there to even tell who the male was. A familial search, because only a few states do that, could come up with partial matches. But they were not prepared to walk into court and say that was Brian Kohberger's in the mixture, separate from the SNAP DNA. Because it depends on how much is within the mixture. Now, I'm going to bring up CC Moore on Ashley Banfield talking about this particular subject in depth. And there was something else she said that should have broke the internet, but it's been missed because it was said on Ashley Banfield. Feel how you want to feel. I don't know where any of y'all really stand on her or not. I'm listening to the conversation they were having. And I don't discount all of Ashley's sources or discredit anybody at this point, because I've seen sources pop up out of nowhere with apparently information so valid FBI should have been called. And once I actually heard that one piece, honestly, it made me a little mad. Made me a little fucking mad. Like, why did nobody speak up about that? Why? Because that probably would have been enough to divert their attention and they'd have been all over that for a moment. Maybe. Okay, let me get my timestamp to the where I need it. I don't know if any of you saw this air over the weekend. What was this, Saturday, Friday night, or Friday night, I think? Yeah, sheriff don't know what he's doing. He's just out there word salad in life because nobody's telling him anything. He's the investigators on the ground are working together, but they're working with the FBI and doing whatever the FBI says go do next and ask. It, I agree with Maureen. FBI is running the show. They're just letting that dude talk and nobody's telling him anything. He's just rambling on. That's all he's doing. He out there cowboy style. He a crazy cowboy. He don't even know how to stay. Oh, Lord, he wouldn't survive long in the desert. Look at him. I'm surprised he has lasted this long in the desert. Jesus. Well, I guess with certain protections you might survive. Okay. Almost there. Okay. Let me get it up. So Cece was over on Ashley Banfield's show, and this is a really interesting discussion. She's going to explain the process with this DNA, how it needs to work, why it would or would not work. And then she'll explain a little more about why all this shade might have gotten thrown at the Florida lab to begin with. Huh. Okay. And I'm not new to CC Moore. She's somebody I knew about long before the Idaho 4 case even happened. She had nothing to do with Idaho 4. But people turned to her for her expertise to try to understand a little bit more. I've always known about her since the first time she ever made news, right, with what they were doing. And it was such an interesting thing to me back then because I remember when DNA wasn't even a thing in investigations and the promise of the future of DNA. I come from that era. That's the same era that one day said that they also said one day pot will be legal, and we just laughed and laughed. Like, okay, well, guess what? DNA is out here solving crimes, and pot's legal in a lot of states. All right. So let's get to this conversation because it's so super interesting. And I hope y'all are in the mood for it and find it as interesting as I do.
But I would say Parabon's bioinformatics scientists are specialists in mixture deconvolution. It's something that they are.
Okay, well, maybe I need to back it up just a tiny bit more because she is that Parabon is her company, but she's going to tell you why. I gotta. That wasn't the whole context. It's not going to work. Hold on one second. Because she wasn't like plugging her company, she was explaining something. Okay. Do y'all, I should have had a poll. Do you guys think that FBI is any closer to finding anything out? We've got 40 names, all these holster purchases. Did any of these people who bought these holsters buy a gun? Yay or nay? Did any of the searches about the clothing being worn in the Walmart trail, has that turned up a lead? How many tips are generated? I know a guy with the eyes like that. Do we think they're any closer today than they were Friday when we went to bed, or even last night? I'm just curious. All right, let me get to this timestamp where they started that. Just a couple of backups from it. Oh, that was the wrong. I was like, what? That was the wrong video. No wonder. Didn't even make no sense to me. Okay, this one. All right, now, thanks for being patient. I didn't want to be the hot mess express for y'all, but it turned into that real quick, didn't it? Oh boy. At least we're real. All right. So I need to back it up to at least. Okay, I think this will be good enough.
Today, as well as what I've discovered from my source, just sort of puts me in a whole different direction now. I've spoken to someone who is in law enforcement, is familiar with the investigation, who has told me that the blood found, and again, blood found inside the house, this is something that I reported on day 3, that another source of mine, a high-level law enforcement source, reported there was blood found inside the house. No one in law enforcement, the sheriff, etc., has confirmed that. But my source said there was blood found in the house. Today, another law enforcement source.
Hey, so before I want to address two things. Yes, she's stating a source told me this and that. But here's the thing. We always suspected there's blood in that house. We see it on the front steps, right? Or the front patio entryway at the door. We see what's there with our own eyes. Was there also some in the house? Does it appear to be the same pattern as what we see outside the house? If there is in the house that type of stain, blood, where does it originate? I always wanted to know that. Does it originate in the bedroom? Struggle starts there. Does it originate in the living room, headed toward the front door, or at the door, right? Those are things I always wanted to know. Now, this is again a source now reporting that this is the same blood inside the home appears to match the pattern of what's outside the home, but it doesn't appear to be stepped in, smeared, or anything. So you should be able to get a solid sample from that to prove that's Nancy. Maybe they did, and maybe they only addressed what we saw outside because we saw it, right? They're like, we're not even going to address blood in the house. We'll just address what we know they saw because, our bad. So I think that's what happened. But if this is true and there's a pattern in the house that doesn't appear to be disturbed, just like what's out front, the mixture doesn't come from that sample. It comes from somewhere else. And does that mixture even contain Nancy's DNA? And Cece addresses that as well. Now, as far as Rachel, you're right. I think the FBI is working hard and is much more than we know. We only know about 10%. Exactly, but that wasn't the question, hun. Do y'all think the FBI has a little more? I know they're always going to tell us we're going to get 5%, we're lucky. But do y'all think they have more at this point? That's my question.
Familiar with the investigation, has said that the pattern of that blood inside the house matches the pattern outside the house, outside Nancy's front door. So you've seen that video where you can see droplets of Nancy Guthrie's blood leading away from her front door and down the gravel path to the driveway. But those pattern droplets, as many experts have described it, are as vertical. They fall straight up and down, 90 degrees. And there's no smears, there's no stepping in it, there's no struggle, there's no signs of struggle on that front doorstep. My source tells me it is exactly the same inside the house, that there's no sign of struggle in that blood. It's not smeared, there's no steps. They are those straight up and down drop pattern blood. I asked where in the house, and I did not get that answer. I can't tell you if it was in the bedroom, if it was in the front entrance. What I can tell you is that at the time that 911 was called and sheriff's deputies were dispatched, and patrolman came. Basically, it was a call about a missing elderly woman. They were not aware at the time that this was much more than a missing elderly woman, but the signs, again, and this is a second source now telling me this, is that the back door was wide open. The blood droplets were inside the house and outside the house, and the front camera had been.
Now, her source continues to tell her that back door was wide open. We know we see no damage to that door at all. So why would it even be open if it wasn't the entry point? And if you're going to bring Nancy out the front door, do you take the time to stop and shut the door and possibly lock it again so that if anybody passed by, they wouldn't just see the front door wide open and cause someone to be suspicious? Say like a neighbor who paid attention. No one's going to see the back door really. Don't know why it would even be open or left open. But it brings us back to how they get in, right? And we don't even know anything because the sheriff don't know nothing either. He probably really legit has no idea. They're like, don't tell him anything else. Make him guess how they got in. Let's watch him squirm on national TV.
Knocked off its mount. My first source said smashed, cameras plural, nest. Second source now saying definitely camera knocked off or ripped off or gone, moved off in some.
Are we still going to harp on that camera knocked off or moved off in some way? The one we can all see was actually removed. I couldn't tell you about that back door. It's so hard to tell if there's a bracket there for a camera because I'm still wondering if there was a camera. I'm being told there was, but I've seen no evidence to show me there was because they can't get the angle right from their drones. So Brian Enton, I don't know how to get you to really acknowledge my questions like directly because I think they're good. They're not frivolous. I don't want frivolous questions. That's ridiculous. Can we see a bracket back there? Any of the reporters that walked that property, do you physically with your eyes see a bracket that may have held a Nest camera at the back door on the patio? Thank you. Appreciate it. If y'all could, y'all ask the same question out, and when you're out and about on the streets trolling, ask them. Hashtag ask the media. Ooh. How about that? Instead of crazy questions that I thought were common sense answered. Okay, so enough of that.
Some way. And so this is just fascinating because at the same time that I'm learning this information about these blood droplets inside the house matching blood droplets, the same pattern outside the house, there's reporting that comes from NBC that the sheriff has given an interview to NBC, taped it yesterday, it was released today, and I'm recording this at 10 o'clock at night.
All right, let me get on to her actual conversation because I can talk to Ash. Hey, Ashley, if you want to talk, come on down. The price ain't right because I don't got no money. But hell, we're here for conversation. Now let's get to what CC has to say about this mixture and how it actually should work and why it may not be working. Okay. Because it's important to know. We like to be in the know. And we want some facts. Just the facts, ma'am. Okay. Okay, let me get the screen back up. Okay, let me get the screen up here. Again, so I don't like to get in trouble or use people's content. This is Ashley Banfield on Drop Dead Serious on her X channel. Y'all know how to find her. One of you mods, if y'all want to drop the link, you can do that as well. You can go hear the whole conversation if that's something that interests you guys.
Tell me about the significance of what the sheriff has told NBC that the Florida lab, and this is, I'm giving it in my lingo, is struggling to separate out this DNA. What does that say to you?
Yeah, it's really concerning, and it tells me that it's unlikely that it is Nancy's DNA.
Unlikely that it's Nancy's DNA, because it'd be easy to tell if it was.
Mixed with the suspect, and that's really what I was hoping for. Because if it was Nancy's with an unknown male, then that almost certainly would be the suspect, especially if it was fresh DNA, if it was, for instance, blood, if she fought back, because clearly there was some kind of altercation. So that leads me to speculate it's more likely it's two or more unknown people's DNA. That's not so straightforward. If you don't.
Does that make any sense to you guys? So if this sample of this mixture doesn't contain Nancy's, it contains a mixture of a couple of other people, 2 to 3. But where was the sample taken from? Things like that have to come into play at that point. Because does it even directly tie to the crime, right? But then again, we're assuming this is not female DNA because Nancy had guest over. She had guest over that weekend. She had her birthday thingy, right? She had cooked the shrimp and the grits and the baguettes. Her friends came over. She had people in her home. She entertained. She had employees in the home. Don't know that the pool guy or the yard guy ever came in to use the bathroom, so as an example. We don't know. We also see the guy at the door is gloved up. But are other people gloved up that may or may not have been present in the home? Where is this mixture coming from? Especially if our assailants are gloved up the entire time, what kind of DNA from them could you possibly have? Unless they dropped their flashlight or touched their flashlight with their gloved hand, transferring the saliva to the glove and then the saliva to an object like a doorknob, then how many other DNAs would be present on the doorknob? And is there enough there to separate those out perfectly?
Don't know who either of those contributors are. There might even be more than two, which really makes it very complex. If it was Nancy's DNA mixed with an unknown male, they have her DNA, they've got the blood from the front porch, it would be relatively straightforward to extract her portion out from that mixed.
So it would be easy to separate Nancy's out of that, right? So even if say it does contain Nancy's and they were able to separate hers out, still leaves the unknowns to work with. And what can you derive from that? But what she's saying about it possibly not even containing Nancy's makes perfect sense to me. Hi, Pepper Potts from Germany. Welcome in. Have we seen the camera footage from LTL Media put up a few hours ago? Is it the same video the FBI released? Have they done some work on it or something? Because no, I haven't. But I've seen what the FBI released. If that's the same footage you're referring to. And welcome in from Germany.
example. It's called deconvolution. And it's something we do a lot. Our scientists at Parabon are amazing at it. So a lot of my cases I've been able to help solve were from mixed samples. But you have to have a certain proportion of the person that you're trying to identify in that. If they are the minor contributor by a significant amount, if it's, say, 90% one person and 10% the person you want to ID, that can be virtually impossible. So
It could be virtually impossible. The sheriff. Oh, technology advancing at 6 months a day, a year. Blah, 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 blah. What, sir? What are you talking about? You don't understand science. We blinded him with science. But Cece, fortunately, can shed light.
it's really disappointing. I definitely had my hopes up that this was going to be a straightforward deconvolution, that it was Nancy and someone else, which would make it more definitively tied to the actual crime. If it's, say, transfer DNA, or what's commonly called touch DNA, from multiple unknown people, that really does make it difficult, and that's really disappointing.
I have so many questions about that, and the news that my source has broken.
See, there might have been a big hype about this DNA because of the sheriff's bullshit, when really it's nothing. It may not be anything, right? Or so, like she's saying, you may never find out, especially if the contributor you're trying to figure out only has a 10% or less of them in that mixture. It's going to be hard to even get a familial match to find a distant relative.
To me today is that those blood droplets outside continued inside in the same pattern inside. I can't tell you where, just that the blood that was found inside the house, my source, law enforcement source, says it is the same droplet pattern. It's not a struggle, it's not a smear. But does that help you to sort of think through?
That would say that the sample didn't come from that blood then. If it's just the same, if that's true, and it is the same pattern that we see out front, and there's no smears or no sign of a struggle, then your mixture didn't come from that, if they don't have Nancy's blood in the mixture or DNA in the mixture.
Through what might be happening in Florida?
Well, we don't even know if it is that sample, at all. It could be something completely different. Maybe they swabbed a faucet, for instance. Sometimes when people are at a crime scene for an extended period of time, which it sounds like this person was, they use the restroom. It's the oddest thing. There's been people who have spit in the toilet, who have used the toilet and left it and didn't flush it. And so we've been able to identify people that way. So it's so difficult to speculate as to what it is they have without more information. But
the business card that was left on the front door, welcome in, Juan. Yeah, Juan, welcome in. So the card that's been left on the front door, they've come out and reported now that card was, and I actually listened to, was it Brian Enton, who said that his people, I might be on the wrong podcaster, but it was somebody reputable. Their people saw the lady place the card on the door, and it was after Nancy went missing. And it was after they were called for whatever reason, Nancy's missing. And for whatever reason, they don't realize this is all going on and go put a card on the door. Now, when I tell y'all weird shit will happen, and people, no coincidences in true crime, they're lying to you. Because it happens all the time, and it's weird as hell, and it's unexplainable, but they happen. And I could cite so many things in so many cases. But that was apparently witnessed by reporters on the ground to actually be placed there after Nancy went missing. Because my first thought was that front door ever used, right? There's a card there. If it was left beforehand for whatever reason, that would indicate to me they didn't use that front door a lot and may not have ever realized the card was there. It's in a little enclave. You can't really see the door. So if Nancy's habit was not to use that front door, to always use the garage, did she even know the card was there? So I get your point, but apparently it was placed there after the fact.
Just, as we just discussed, the fact that the deconvolution is difficult, if that reporting is true, that does make me believe it's less likely that it is one of those straightforward deconvolutions where you can extract out one person's known DNA.
And to be clear, the sheriff has only released that there is biological, matter that they are continuing to test. At one point said DNA, male DNA, not connected to Nancy or her immediate circle of known.
I actually did see him say it was a mixture. First, he was talking about separating it out, so I was speculating it was a mixture. But then I actually heard him use those words.
Yeah, and I have too. And I wondered, is it possible that now knowing this information, that there's this blood and its droplets inside the house, that there might have been some kind of a struggle or an injury happening where the assailant, expelled saliva or just expiring, his own breath may have mixed with her blood. Is that a possibility?
It certainly is, but I believe that if that was what they were working with, they would not be struggling with it. Now, I don't know how reliable that reporting is, but if that is correct, that is what leads me to believe that it is something, less straightforward than that. Ever since we heard there was a mixture, I was hoping it's Nancy's DNA, it's the suspect's DNA mixed.
She said she don't know how reliable that reporting is, but I like her. She's like, I know better. I know better than just to believe it.
That, would be something that I don't think the lab would struggle with at all. But we've been contacted in the past where they've had 3 contributors or 4 contributors. And, if these are unknown individuals, it becomes very difficult, if not impossible, to separate that out and to be able to focus on this one person.
A lot of people would wonder, well, what kind of a mixed source might they have tapped? And I'm not suggesting you're going to know, but I thought if there's male DNA, it could be, came in a FedEx package and the FedEx package went onto the counter in the kitchen. Is that the kind of thing that might end up becoming a mixed sample, or is that way off?
No, that's correct. And that is why it's so disappointing to me as well, because if
it is disappointing, because if it was the damn delivery driver who got 10% of his DNA deposited into that house, just in natural ways, we're investigating the wrong person. And the whole world's been on fire about some DNA.
It's not
a glove found 2 miles away.
Blood, if it's not saliva, if it's transfer DNA or touch DNA, as people call it, that is less likely to be the suspect, because we leave DNA everywhere we go. And you and I could be together, and
those of us who survived Idaho 4 can never forget that we leave DNA everywhere we go, because everybody and their brother reminded us, including on the cereal box. When y'all get home from the grocery store, I suggest y'all wash your hands thoroughly, because you don't want the criminal's DNA ended up in your house accidentally because you touched the cereal box that he touched and decided he didn't want. Trust me.
Could get a piece of your hair on me, and I could go home and transfer that into my home, and you were never even.
Or if you're Rex Heuermann's wife, your hair could end up on a victim wrapped up in burlap out on Gilgo Beach.
There. So having someone's DNA, if it's transfer DNA, doesn't necessarily mean they were even there. We could shake hands and I leave a few skin cells on your hand, and then you could transfer that somewhere. And so it's just far less definitive, if that is the type of DNA that they're working with, that it's actually the suspect's DNA. And we know he had gloves. We know he was covered, right? We saw the video. So he was definitely making an effort to not leave any biological material behind.
But he was breathing. And doesn't breath just automatically expel, or is that just too small of a sample?
I think it depends. I think if somebody sneezed or coughed, you'd have a much better chance. Breathing, not so much. But he had that, what appeared to be that flashlight in his mouth. So that's really hopeful because he likely took that out, right? So he's wearing gloves to try to keep from leaving his DNA, but there's saliva all over that, what looked to be a bite flashlight. He takes it out of his mouth. Now he has saliva all over his gloves. And that could absolutely have been left in the home. It would have been very difficult for him not to leave that somewhere. So that's hopeful, but maybe it's on the door, right? I'm not sure.
Door handle, yeah, or I mean, on the door handle, on the cameras that are missing, and my source said smashed, but certainly it is gone off that bracket. That could have, and I wondered that what appears to be a bite light in your mouth would also make you salivate, and maybe there had been some saliva that dropped on those front tiles.
Exactly. I've been speculating the exact same.
Well, that would be sweet if that happened, but damn it, man, we wouldn't know about it. Because that crime scene was released, 24 hours later, almost 48. People trampling all over where saliva may have dripped from the man's mouth to the patio tiles to mix in with the blood droplets. That's contaminated as hell, including the weeds he picked up to try to wedge in there to pull the light off with. They may or may not have succeeded because they won't show me the rest of the video, so I can test my own theory. Whatever he was doing with the vines, he dropped them and left them, as well as the mat he may have spit on. Hopefully he left it in the house. Any saliva trace of him in that light hopefully is in the house. Did he drop his little damn light and it roll under the bed and he couldn't find it but maybe 41 minutes was he looking for the light and never could find it and took a chance and left it? Is that the smoking gun, like the sheath? If they had the actual light in the home, there would be no question about who that man was at this point. DNA would have already told us. They don't have the flashlight. You got direct saliva all over that little bitch. If they got the flashlight, they got the guy. Just like Brian Kohberger. FBI says, hold my beer, here comes IGG. We'll get that name in 1 second. But we hadn't got there yet. So hopefully there's transfer of saliva from the glove onto something, but it's apparently such a weak-ass mixture, it ain't going to do any good. Maybe.
Thing for the last few days.
Maybe the company was able to actually separate and get a profile. If they did, FBI's got it, and their genealogy people are working their magic in the background the same way they did on Brian Kohberger. While the world was still looking for all the clues in this white Elantra all over the country, FBI already knew what they were doing behind the scenes and never told a soul. Not even when they finally figured it out. They're like, shh, that's just a tip. Go find your evidence, boys.
That if he leaned forward to disable that camera with that in his mouth, it would have been extremely difficult to keep from slobbering on the ground. So I think that's an option too, although that's more likely to be single source. And it doesn't, and single source means, just that person's DNA, but it doesn't sound like that's what they're working with. If they had that, I don't think they'd be struggling because it's unlikely there'd be anyone else's DNA right there under that.
And it was
like, he didn't turn around to his girl or his buddy and say, here, put my flashlight in your mouth. Your turn to bite it. I'm tired. Lord.
We know that the biological matter and that, that this mixed sample of DNA is from inside the house. What else could that be? Could that be, I suppose it could be a lot of things, but yes, what sort of examples could you imagine in your line of work that a mixed sample inside the house could be?
Well, it could be blood, it could be saliva, it could be semen and bodily fluids, it could be touch transfer DNA. Those, and it could be hair, but not mixed. So if it's hair, it wouldn't be mixed. So if we're just talking about mixed exclusively, those are the only ones that I can think of. So it's it's either a bodily fluid or a sweat, which is typically, transfer DNA is you find that. So
And again,
skin
he's
cells,
covered head to toe, so it's hard to imagine that any sweat would have,
well, unless
been.
he touched something, that outfit looked uncomfortable. If he reached inside that, and he could very well have been sweating, or maybe some could have dripped because he did have some bits of skin that were uncovered.
Exposed.
And if he
Yeah.
leaned forward, for instance, if Nancy was in the bed, for example, and he leaned forward, during the abduction, it's certainly possible something could have dripped on the sheets. I don't think we have any reason to believe there was a sexual assault, but we very commonly see mixtures in sexual assaults. That's very, very common. It's actually one of the reasons we work with them so often. Hopefully there was nothing like that, but we can't rule it out because we don't know what they found in the home. So, to summarize what you just asked, blood, saliva, semen, sweat, skin cells are probably the options.
We discussed that the other day. Remember, guys, we were going through the list of what could they possibly leave in the home as far as DNA, and we all were like going through the list, right? So we're on the right track. I'm proud of us as a community.
So if we're talking about, skin cells are hard again because he's all covered up. But like you said, if he touched that bite light, now the saliva's on the glove, and he uses a door handle, he's got to open a door, right?
And then that would be mixed, right? Because a lot of people touched that door handle, undoubtedly. So you have to hope he was the last one who did, and he's the major contributor.
My guess would be the back doorknob. If that back door's left wide open, and that's my entry point, so he's still biting his light when he gets the floodlights are destroyed, so it's dark as hell back there. Is he biting the light when he's at the back door, transferring his saliva, or did he do it coming out the front door? My guess may be the back door, and then family members' DNA is probably on the back door knob, as well as possible employees, including the outside guys who may come to the door, may knock, I'm done, ma'am. Okay. That kind of thing, touching the door or the doorknob in any part of that conversation with Miss Nancy. Thank you. I'll see you next time. I don't know. I'd love to know where they got the damn DNA from.
Hoping in the mixture that your unidentified person that you need to zero in on is the majority of that DNA sample.
Can I ask you, it's hard to know what the sheriff
So
means.
Butterfly has a good point by hoping they swabbed everything, right? We have a homicide team with barely 3 years experience. I hope they did their due diligence, but here's the thing. Even with the FBI coming into town and they got into the house, they still swabbed on their own. Now that might be a problem in court, but they're swabbing to get DNA to tests, to go get you on some IgG if possible, right? So even though the local sheriff's department might have missed critical areas to swab, I think the FBI would have absolutely ran to those areas first to swab, right? Maureen was on the evidence collection team at one point. Man, some of the things they think about looking at, I don't think the average person realizes they would think to look there. Weird, right? So I think that, hopefully that if that happened, because we know that damn well there's issues at that crime scene, I'm hoping the FBI did go back in and do a better job at collecting more DNA to see what we got here.
When he says that they're having trouble isolating mixed DNA samples.
Oh, and let me just say this so the internet won't break again. That director dude that I never paid much attention to anyway, that everybody's wanted me to pay attention to, I don't care where he parties because he's not boots on the ground doing jack shit. He's just sitting there waiting to take the credit when the boys working hard come up with something. So he doesn't even exist in my world. Sorry, had to get it out.
Is it possible they will never get an actual viable sample from a mix, or is it just possible that they're having trouble identifying it?
It is possible that they would be unable to deconvolute it to the point where it would be identifiable. That's why it's so disappointing.
Why is that? Too small.
The reason the FBI may not have bothered with that rug on the front porch, because they were fully aware of how contaminated that rug was, how difficult that shit's off the table. But that inside of that house should be a whole different ball game, because the only people that should have been inside that house by the time the FBI got there would have been the family who first come into the house to discover Nancy missing, and law enforcement. Right? There were no reporters rummaging around inside the home. They were outside all over that mat. Brian Enton's DNA going to be on there, Mike Ruiz, all of them's DNA is about to be up in that damn patio. So FBI is like, oh, the best thing we can do with that patio is recreate this guy's height. They can have that stupid rug and them stupid vines that they're convinced he was trying to cover up the camera with. Oh Lord.
Small sample?
It's more it's the percentages. So if it is the minor contributor that you're trying to identify, and he's only 10% of that mixture, it can be extremely difficult, if not impossible, to identify that individual, especially if it's more than two. If it's two,
I think you got a better chance of recovering good DNA from the inside now versus the outside, right? I hate it for them, but that's just, it is what it is, and all the more reason to put another check on the box as to why somebody I'm gonna get flustered talking about him. He should sit all the way the fuck down. Sorry about my language, but that's just the way we roll.
There's a chance. But if it's 3 and 4, and you don't have the reference samples for the other individuals in that mixture, then you've got a real problem. If they could say, okay, there's 3 people in this mixture and one of them is Annie's. Okay, we've got Annie's DNA, we can work with that to extract it. That would be helpful. But then you still have 2 unknown individuals. And it's
so this mixture even contained the family members that they have swabbed for comparison. They would know it was containing their mixture. But we got some unknowns. Did they all have a bite flashlight? Ooh, that would be cool. But then again, you got 2 to 3 people's saliva touching the doorknob, one behind the other, with their little flashlight. That just made me think about something I hadn't thought about yet. I mean, I knew that there was not the family member's DNA, probably, because she's right about can exclude them from the mixture. There was so much of Maddie and Kaylee's blood on the sheath in those dots that they were able to say, without a doubt, that's their blood. It was just that male part they couldn't definitively say belonged to Koberger in the mixture part. So if we can rule out Nancy, if we can rule out family, how many mixtures are in this mix? Is it 2 or is it 3? Because if it's 2, we got 2 people in the house. If it's 3, we got 3 in the house. That would be my thought process if I was the FBI.
Difficult to separate that out without a reference sample, unless one person's DNA is, by far the major contributor in that mixture. So I wouldn't say it's impossible. It just depends on so many factors. Depends on how many people in the mixture. It depends on the percentages. Is one person 50%, one person 40, and another 10? Is one person 90% and another 10? All of those things are what go into determining whether it's going to be able to be.
With that said, even if they could get within this mixture, if they got 190, 70, whatever, would that be enough to pull a profile on that individual and begin a genealogical tree on? I don't know if there'll be enough to upload to CODIS, right? Because there's standards to upload to CODIS, and I don't think that is stressed enough when people are talking about CODIS. It only works if we got a full sample and our perp's a criminal. If not, we got nothing, right? It's a great database, but if they're not in it, we got nothing. Because guess who else wasn't in the database on a complete profile? Brian Koberger. So they had to rely on IgG. So it doesn't take as much to do the IgG as it would, say, a full-on profile. Anyway, okay.
Successfully deconvoluted and then identified.
And to be clear, I've mentioned this a lot in many of my episodes. This lab in Deerfield Beach, Florida, I think it's called DNA International. Is that
DNA
correct?
Labs International, yes.
DNA Labs International.
DNA Labs International. Pay attention.
No joke. They are good.
Right.
And
they
have
very
solved.
good.
Right, right. And I know that there was a lot of consternation early on. How could the sheriff do this? But literally, they are a phenomenal outfit that has solved crimes before, like really tricky crimes to solve. If they can't do it, is there anybody else who could? Or if they can't do it, you're at the end of the road.
Well, I mean, I don't want to advocate for Parabon, but I would say Parabon's bioinformatics scientists are specialists in mixture deconvolution. It's something that they are especially good at. A lot of my successful cases have been.
Now,
But
for a little backstory, that is her company, Parabon. But she brings that up to give you the example.
again, even for them, it's going to come down to the proportions and the number. So I don't know. I haven't worked with DNA Labs International's deconvolution because we have such good bioinformaticists at Parabon. So I don't want to say they're better than theirs. I don't know. But I believe very strongly in this lab. I've worked with them. They are great at extracting DNA. Parabon doesn't do extractions. So we've had
Parabon doesn't do extractions. Extractions off of evidence. Continue, ma'am.
extract the DNA from the evidence on a lot of our successful cases that I've been able to go on and help law enforcement solve. And so I know how good they are on really difficult samples. So as I've been saying all week, I have full confidence in them. And I actually think the sheriff made a great choice because they're kind of a one-stop shop. They can do the extraction, they can create the STR profile, which is the one that's uploaded to CODIS, and they can create the SNP profile that's used for genetic genealogy, all in parallel, right? As soon as they do the extraction, they can start both of those other processes at once. And so he saved time because if you just send it to someone that only has the capability for the CODIS profile, which the FBI does, FBI doesn't have the capability to create a SNP profile.
What? Did I try to explain that before?
For genetic genealogy in-house. They always send that out.
They always send that out. So even if he had sent it to the FBI, they'd have been like, dude, damn it, hold on. Here you go, private company. Do your thing and then get back to us. Just like in the Koberger case, right? Just like in the Koberger case.
And that is not something that is done in public labs, government labs. It's always a private third-party lab that creates that SNP profile. And so by sending it to a lab he has a lot of experience with, he's had a contract with them for a long time, he's obviously had a lot of successes with them, to me, that was a great choice.
The problem lies within the sample itself, not the company analyzing the sample. Maybe we'll get to how come that company got shade to start with in just a second.
The best choice? I don't know. I would think so, in my opinion, but I don't know all the details. But the fact he was criticized for it, I think
you're in the business. I think people would value your opinion because this literally is your business. You know it better than any of us.
Well, I think he made a great choice, and the fact he was criticized for it was, in my mind, competitive posturing from the people that were speaking out about it, because the person who originally was interviewed that came out and said it was devastating owns a competing lab.
What? I remember that tweet. Devastating was the headline. The sheriff devastated the case by sending it to a Florida lab. Turns out CC knew all along. The person who tweeted that owned a competitive company who may or may not have wanted their shot at that DNA sample because they knew how the game was played. Imagine that. Come out and cranked the internet, broke it, and quietly left. Shh. Carry on.
They would have, I'm sure, liked to have worked the case. We all would have liked to have worked the case. I would have loved to have helped try to find Nancy. But, only one lab, one team is likely to get that.
Do I always say, be careful on them YouTube streets? Maybe I need to start saying, be careful on them social media streets. Includes the detours. It might lead you astray.
Opportunity, at least outside the FBI. The FBI may come in and bring their investigative genetic genealogy team in, just like they did on the Koberger case. It was started by one company, and then it wasn't happening quickly enough, apparently. So the FBI.
Sorry. It happened quickly enough, ma'am. Remember, they got down to the two cousins, and there was nobody else to go on because the door shut. Ancestry's like, no, you cannot. 23andMe's like, you cannot access our database for all that nonsense. Get out of here. Because they went to the 3 places that allow it, and it ended up falling back on 2 cousins. And that's where it stopped for Othram out of Texas. That's when the FBI took over and said, hold my beer. We can do a little more. And boy, did they. That's a whole other show, though.
I took over the investigative genetic genealogy and identified him. We might see something similar here, but first they've got to get that SNP profile. And probably the glove that was found 2 miles from the home, I wouldn't be surprised if they already have that, or already, moving forward with that.
Because if that was a straightforward DNA lift off that glove, at this point, no matter who it belonged to, if it is similar enough for the FBI to work IgG on, which is not like, we're not coming to court with all that mess. That's about all they can do with that DNA from that crime, because not from the crime scene. Prove it came from the crime scene. But we can still do IgG and get a name and investigate them and see what the evidence shows. Think about that.
But the DNA inside the home, which to me is much more compelling, apparently seems to be challenging. So it may take a while for them to create a SNP profile, if they're even able to do so. And that's the first time I've said that, because I've always thought they absolutely would be able to, but I didn't have all the information.
Okay, that's about the gist of that conversation that I wanted you guys to see. That all sums it up right there. And even to find out that the person that tweeted that is being a messy Marvin, like, no, you fool, sit down as well. Because what are you doing? If it had been your company chosen, would you come out with, look what we got, that kind of thing? And yeah, there's some weird grown-ups in our world. But I thought that was a really interesting conversation that they had, and could shed a little more light on what the problems with that DNA could really be. And it sounds like the mixture itself may or may not contain enough of anything to work with. Maybe it was enough to yield something that they could start some IgG, and which can take a long time if you don't got a solid profile to work with, especially in the Hispanic community. If this person at the front door is Hispanic, they went through that conversation as well. Cece was talking all about that in one of her other interviews that we had seen here and reviewed. So I'm just kind of like reviewing stuff today, y'all. I have not trolled the social medias to see what's going on out there at the moment. I think that if anything does pop up, when the mods will let me know if there's anything breaking, like, serious. If it's just people putting out weird tweets about throwing shade at the investigation, I'm good. You know what I mean? I already know. Wait, what is this? Totally different case, but I gotta take a break for 1 second. Okay, I was just reading about a verified motion in the Delphi case. So then, if they don't have a good profile from the DNA inside that house to determine, no CODIS match, whatever, they can't figure out who it is for whatever reasons, it's no good. These other tips and leads aren't turning up anything that we know of yet. And I just wonder, would they be a little more cautious next time? Like if there is a next time and they have their eyes set on somebody like the FBI, um, will we see another raid similar to Carlos and the other guys? The other guy, one of them is lawyered up as well. Not like lawyered up and sus. YouTube has told me for a couple years now, get a lawyer. So, if somebody comes pointing a finger at me and I ain't done shit, I'm getting a lawyer. But I don't know if when them YouTube lawyers will really answer the phone. I'm gonna have to call somebody else. But I'm taking the advice, right? Brian Enton did a little interview with Carlos' attorney. And we'll get to that in a minute. Well, actually, we could do that one first. He did another episode that I wanted to talk about a specific part of it, but he also then he dropped another episode and did the Carlos interview, not with Carlos, but with his attorney. And I just find it interesting because I wanted to know more about why they looked to him to start with, because whatever reason, but also what were they looking for, other than a sign of Nancy. DNA in the home, DNA in the vehicle, medication, a cane that can't nobody explain, a sign that she was ever here. Was there specifics? I know Lana read it out loud when I keep saying that, Carlos sent her the search warrant like right after it happened. And I listened to her read it, and it said listed on there medications and medical devices. And I thought, medical devices? Medication is a given in my brain because I'm going to look for it because you could have replaced it. But medical devices, we're talking about a pacemaker inside the body. Then the article comes out about hearing aids. So I'm sure the family always told cops from day one, mother wears hearing aids. Without them, she can't hear anything. They're missing. But why would they be missing and nothing else? Did she sleep with them in? Eventually the batteries are going to die, right? There's a whole thing behind that. But so that I'm trying to take away clues when I can pick them up, right? And make note of those things. And I don't think Lana, look, y'all, I'm take everything with a grain of salt, but she literally got that shit emailed to her and she read it. So I know it. I know what it said. And they were looking for medications and devices, and I thought the strange thing to look for is medical devices or cane. My first thought was, are they considering the cane the medical device? Anyway, I'm sure they looked for very similar things and items at the second raid. So because of those two apparently false alarm raids were made everybody looks foolish, let's be honest. You come in with the wrath of God raining down your home, and then all these things are happening and the FBI is everywhere, and then nothing. No arrest, no detains, no nothing. Not once but twice are we looking a little, you know, constitutionally, are we looking good right now? So are they taking their time and being a little more thorough about who they raid next, right? Like, can you get some legit phone warrants and start looking at their phone to see if there was any suspicious activity? Or do you need something more to get the warrant to look at the phone? Is that why you're raiding them and then downloading phones on the sidewalk? It's a whole thing for me. But I'm wondering if they're just being a little more particular now, considering what we all saw back to back happen. I think I might be a little more cautious, right? Before I did all that again. Because after a while, I'm going to have to ask them, what are y'all doing? 40 names and what? Can you prove y'all got a list of 40 gun holsters that were sold in the area? Just like that one? Can you prove that's the one? There's a whole thing. Now, I'm sure they did their due diligence in their investigation and developed these names they were looking at for a damn legitimate reason. But what got them there, I don't know yet, so can't get there. But I think Carlos's attorney is trying to figure some of it out. He's trying to figure out how you got to my client, that kind of thing. So it would be in this one. Let me see. Yeah, Jim is in the first one that I wanted to look at, so it would be this one. Okay. Yeah, CODIS has their rules. We've all learned about that lately. I mean, I hope, people are learning things as we go through these cases, right? Learning how certain things do work and how they don't really work. And it would be great if the talking heads across the board would actually not word salad stuff and just say it. We're not so complicated or uncomplicated that we can't understand plain English. When you get up there and you pretend you got to be having 50 degrees to understand what you're saying, and you've lost me the minute you try to make me think that. It's like, ugh, can y'all just have the conversation, weirdos? All right. Man, it's like pulling teeth trying to find the conversations that matter. To me, anyway, that I want to listen to. Because it's too easy to sit here and ramble on about the inconsistencies of dumbass. Okay. So here's was Brian Enton's interview with Carlos' attorney. And I have not watched the entire part of it yet. Let me see. All right. I had to make sure I had it right for us. And I do. Okay. Share screen. Okay. So he's going to talk about his conversation with Carlos' attorney. And again, this was there was 2 episodes mods that were dropped back to back. This is going to be the one where y'all find the head. Y'all will see the thumbnail if y'all want to drop the link for it. If not, you guys know where to go over to Enton's channel and see all of his content. And I encourage you to go do that. Most of you here already know that. So thanks, Brian, thank you for your due diligence, sir. We're glad you got safely out of Mexico.
Why Carlos? Why did they had a search warrant, they busted inside his house, they still have his phone, I learned. So I got some new information from his lawyer. He's now got a lawyer because he's wants his name cleared, which still hasn't officially been cleared. But I spoke with his lawyer. I wanted you guys to hear this conversation. So you represent Carlos?
Correct. And I also represent his in-laws, his family.
Okay. Yeah, we met them when we were out there the night of the...
And he also represents the in-laws. Oh, ouch, because it was their house.
The bust, I guess you could call it,
Yeah.
or the raid. So, first of all, how is he doing? I mean, I've seen him do some interviews. He's maintained that he has nothing to do with anything to do with Nancy Guthrie, right?
Oh, he's an innocent man. He's absolutely an innocent man. It's really clear to me that he had nothing to do with it, and this was, some kind of mistake. And we'll have to get to the bottom of what the mistake was, who jumped the gun and why. But right now,
I can tell you this: if you can listen to the audio, which we still have not done, from the plunder released right after it happened, they were clearly following Carlos the night before. Because they make reference to the same car that we saw last night. And the phone is pinging in the car. I was like, damn. And I heard them other agencies that were also involved in the following Carlos and waiting for the right time to pull him over. It was amazing to listen to. Because I'm paying attention to the investigation part at this point. What are y'all doing? That part just intrigues me. And I heard some interesting things on that. They were definitely looking at him the day before all that ever went down. But again, why?
Carlos, I think he's doing a little bit better.
Because we don't need it to be that easy, right? That they can just come in and do whatever they want and leave and say, sorry. Sorry you weren't the person. Sorry the internet has put you and your family everywhere. So sorry. Our bad. We didn't mean to.
think he's been able to see some of the response to his interview last week. And, but it's been very hard on the family. It's been very hard on him. To be thrown into the limelight, to have this kind of shadow cast on him, implying that he's somehow involved in the most notorious crime that anyone can think about right now.
How did it go down? Because
Think about that. One of the most notorious crimes of our time right now. And the world is looking at you like, what'd you do, man? What'd you do to Miss Nancy? Some people will never let it go that Carlos is not the guy. I've seen old couples be accused, a man in overalls with a thick country accent. I'm seeing who's chatting the most in some of those chats, because hell, it could be you. I'm just saying.
we got there, they had his road closed off where he lives, and we heard it was a traffic stop down the street, but did they just pull him over? I don't know if you can share some detail on how it actually happened.
So my understanding is that Carlos noticed that he was being followed.
Carlos knows what's up. I would notice too, Carlos, and I got no reason to worry about being followed, but by God, since the 1990s, women started being followed by cops, fake cops. It was a whole thing. Don't pull over, ladies, in the dark. Get to a lighted parking lot with people around. We couldn't have been more. We have to be safe all the time as women, because there's fucking freaks. I would have noticed too, Carlos, if I'd have been followed.
By a marked police vehicle from Marana, which is a community north of Tucson. And that he was driving back to the family house, sees this marked vehicle following him, and he stops to try to talk to them and find out, why are you following me? What's going on? When he does that, multiple police officers jump out, pointing guns, demanding that everybody get out of the vehicle. And from that point forward, they have Carlos arrested. They have him in the back of a Marana car, and then later a Pima County Sheriff's Office car. And then they conduct a raid on the family house.
Was he handcuffed?
Yes.
Okay. And did they say why initially?
No.
So he goes in the back of the car, and then what happened to him next?
So he was held in the back of that car for somewhere between 5 and 7 hours. And I should say in the back of two different cars. He was first in a Marana car and then moved to a Pima County Sheriff's Office car. And all of those law enforcement agencies in southern Arizona,
Now, depending on what tip they had, I cannot blame them for going in and looking for Miss Nancy. But did it have to escalate to the way it did, right? And especially when they don't come out with any follow-up on this guy. And then the next thing we know, they're doing it to another house. And the same thing happens again. That's when the red flag was raised for me. And as far as the legality of what's happening, and all eyes are watching, and you got to be super careful now, FBI, because you already know there's a whole bunch of people ready to rain down on you and your activities that we don't know about. And I always got to remember stuff like that.
work together. Often they have various, sorry, my ring light just fell. They have various task force that they operate cooperatively, so it can sometimes be hard to tell who's running the show.
From that audio, it was hard to tell who was running the show. That I can agree with. Was it Pima County? Where is these other three agencies mentioned in the audio, including the Financial Crimes Unit? Financial Crimes Unit was involved. Why would they be involved if there's no ransom involved? This tip came out after what people are calling the fake ransom notes.
But he spent a total of somewhere between 5 and 7 hours in the back of police vehicles, fully handcuffed, separated from his family, and being questioned by Pima County personnel and most likely the FBI.
So they questioned him while he was in the car still.
Correct.
Okay. And then was he just let go after 7 hours in the car?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
wow, okay. And
And
so
yeah, the other thing I was going to say is they also questioned his family. They questioned his wife. They questioned his mother-in-law, and they arrested and detained, other members of his family.
and
So
so while he's in the car, what happened at the house?
what happened at the house is they did a forced entry into the house, terrifying the occupants, terrifying and damaging property.
Did they take anything?
Our understanding is that the only item that they took is Carlos's telephone.
And I guess nothing came up from the CAS data on that phone. No communication with Tom, no communication with Annie, no communication with Savannah, no communication with other people in on the scheme to abduct Miss Nancy.
Cell phone.
Oh, he could have had a burner, right?
And was he able to get that back?
No, not yet. We've contacted Pima County Sheriff's Office and requested it. We've also contacted the FBI and requested that it be returned. Obviously, we've also put in records requests and evidence preservation letters.
Do you know if it was because this
I almost choked on my Coke. Evidence preservation letters. Sir, you getting them TUI requests ready, aren't you?
second raid that we went to, the one closer to Nancy's house, was they confirmed was a federal search warrant. Was this also a federal search warrant? Do you know?
It was signed by a state judge. Now, that doesn't mean that when you say federal search warrant, what I interpret that to mean is what kind of judge issued it.
Right.
Because there's a difference, and it matters as to when you are able to obtain your FOIA request documents you want. If it's FBI stuff, well, you better do your TUI request.
Right.
This one was issued by a state court judge, and it was directed to state law enforcement actors. That doesn't mean that federal agents were not involved in the affidavit that's used to get the search warrant. But the problem we have right now is we don't have the affidavit. And to kind of explain what that is,
they have the search warrant and what they were looking for when they searched the home, but they do not have the probable cause as to why the warrant was obtained to begin with, right? And that's where the Constitution comes into play in all of this. It's got nothing to do with anything but that.
A search warrant is an order from a judge saying there's probable cause for a search and, describing what person, places, things can be searched. Under the Fourth Amendment to the United States.
And when they got to Brian Koberger's apartment and realized there was a little outbuilding that was assigned to his unit for storage, they had to call the judge and get approval to search that little building. We got to know what we're searching and where we're searching and what we're searching for. Medical devices and prescriptions. Y'all were searching for that? You don't say.
Its Constitution, in order to get a search warrant, you need to put forward probable cause to a neutral magistrate and have that magistrate issue it. And that requires presenting some sort of evidence. The search warrant affidavit for this search warrant was issued by the Pima County Superior Court, and it is sealed. We sent an investigator to go and get it, and we're told that it was sealed. So one of our next steps will be to try to get that search warrant unsealed so that we can see what the purported basis for any of this was.
Do you have any idea? I mean,
so any of the documents that, remember we were talking about sealed documents earlier, the only documents that are going to exist right now are in the Carlos search and the other home that was searched as well, right? But they're not going to want that information to be known to the public because they're probably very similar information as to what they're looking for, right? That would show them Nancy was in that home or anything to do with Nancy specifically. And you don't want the person to know exactly everything you know. We do got to hold some things, right? So that may be why they're wanting to keep it sealed. And eventually he's going to, I don't think this guy's going away quietly. He's going to continue it. I don't know how far it will go. Because fighting the FBI, man, ask Ann Taylor, it's tough.
Based on what they were asking Carlos, have you been able to sort of piece together why they thought he was involved?
I don't think they had any reason to think he was involved. My belief is that it's most like this is his arrest, his unlawful detention, the search of his residence, his property, the seizure of his property, probably all goes to some electronic evidence that's really dubious. Something like cell phone pings, something like flock cameras.
Or a geofence warrant you may or may not have turned up in unwittingly.
He's a delivery driver. I don't know that he was ever even in that area. And I think it's widely known by law enforcement that things like cell phone pings are incredibly inaccurate. They're very dependent on a lot of factors. And so I suspect that it's probably some combination of that and possibly some other sort of bizarre government triangulation, maybe using some kind of, surveillance database type software.
Surveillance database type software triangulation. Where are you going with this conversation, sir? I'm so curious. Yeah, well, his word, Rachel. Yeah, we know he wasn't arrested; he was just detained. But nobody was arrested yet, right? Not even the 40 people on the 40 names list. I don't know. I just hang on. Yeah, they sealed the probable cause in Brian Koberger's case, and then they realized pretty quickly they needed to unseal that part. And then when we got it, that problems arose. But yeah, it's going to stay sealed for now because whatever they're looking for specifically in these homes is going to be brought up in both search warrants. And do they want us to know the details of what they might be looking for? I can understand that part of it. And that's why my brain goes to that, because everybody wants to automatically assume when something is sealed where there's a cover-up going on kind of thing. And that's just my takeaway personally from watching other cases. What are you hiding? It's not about that in a lot of times, right? It has to become unsealed at some point, but I think I can understand why it is right now. That's all I'm saying. They'll get to the bottom of it, maybe get some TUI requests going, figure out why the FBI even bothered to look at him to begin with. Was it just a tip that came in? A phone call? My buddy's got eyes that look like that. It could have been as simple as that. Or, more importantly, they could have shown up in a geofence warrant, and that alone is what they use to investigate him, which is illegal, okay? And I know that because I've been deep diving geofence warrants and the legalities for some time now. And his interesting choice of words are my takeaways from the conversation. That's why I'm trying to present conversations that are moving beyond, what we've been doing. I just, but they can claim it, Butterfly. That's what they'll do. But is that okay for this case and not all the other cases, right? It's okay that I can't be comfortable with saying, oh, you got 100 names in a geofence warrant, go get them all. When the last case, I was like, oh, God, that's a little much. What if I had just been driving through the area? And now you all of a sudden are all up in my business and I got no idea? Is that fair, right? because then we have to worry about building a case against you with fake evidence. That's as a whole, it turns into a whole thing, guys. That's why they got to be more specific with their probable cause, or they should be. So now I wonder, are they? Are they being a little more, specific? What if one gun shop owner said, "Hey, that guy on your list, he was here and he bought a gun." Now all those guys that love their guns and their rights are going to be like, "What the fuck are you doing? You gave my name to the FBI because I bought a gun at your shop that may or may not have been used in a commission of a crime?" That's a problem. That's just where that conversation should sit. You know what I mean? That was the whole point of even bringing this thing into the conversation, because I want to give you guys also some things to think about. Right, there's nothing happening in this case. I don't want to regurgitate the headlines because it's getting so boring, right? So boring. But that's about the gist of that whole conversation there. Again, that was one of Brian's episodes he dropped over the weekend. He had two that I know of, and that was in one of those episodes. All the other things he touched on are basically stuff we already know, and he also had that show over the weekend with News Nation. I think they finally dropped the whole episode on YouTube, and I watched it like, I don't know, before daylight. I listened to it, I should say, and it to me, there was nothing in there that I could take away that was new, right? It's a lot of the same questions that have already been answered in my mind. But it's out there if you guys want to go review that. He had a pretty decent panel up there with him. Hey, not me. I still have something else I want to review with you guys before we go later. Let me check my messages. Somebody is just trying to have a side conversation with me. Okay. There we go. Y'all, my kid graduated early and he's so nonchalant about it. And I'm proud of him because he's always been in like the gifted classes or whatever, but during the pandemic, we're in Florida, so it was a whole ass thing. So he was doing the homeschool shit for a little while. And for a kid like him, he's got to have the teacher right in front of him. So he was like a little bit behind. So we decided together to hold him back the following year. Well, he just flew right past all that and caught up and then went beyond. So he's struggling about, he's decided he will walk with his class. I was like, "I'm going to leave it up to you, buddy. I would like for you to, but..." He's like, "I guess I will, Mom. The rest of my friends are doing it." I'm like, okay. This kid is so nonchalant about everything and laid back. I'm not used to it. He's the opposite of me. He's my little turtle because he's slow walking and slow talking. That's what I call him. Okay. Now, y'all know we've been having the conversation around here, or trying to, about theories, possibilities. Why? Because, to get there, we kind of need to understand why. Oh, Carrie, bless your heart for homeschooling. I'm not a teacher. I'm a great mother, I think. The kids don't have any complaints, but I'm no school teacher. And my kid was in the gifted program, and I was not. So, yeah, there's that, right? But no, he's that kid. He likes his in-person learning. He thrives on it. I think it challenges him more, way more than I could have. Returning back to school for him was exactly what he needed. But I commend all the people out there who have been pulling it off since then. I don't know how the hell y'all did it. Don't know how you did it. Okay. So we've been trying to figure out, different theories around here. Oh, thank you, not me. Congratulations. And Butterfly says, my son was the same. He graduated from college. He wasn't going to walk either, but decided to in the end. Yeah, you don't want him to look back and regret it, right, Butterfly? So I gave him that thought as well. Think about this. You don't at your age, please don't say, "I'll never think that," because we all know what happens when we get that age. We're like, damn, remember that time we said to ourselves, yeah, I was wrong, whatnot. So I don't like, I know better than you. I just try to give him things to think about. He'll figure it out on his own. So, us figuring it out. All right, guys. So back to our conversation about possible theories, right? And we've had the big discussion, break in gone bad. Honestly, that's off my list, completely off the list. I think a lot of you that have been around for a minute realize I was already getting there, right? Well, my kid had a teacher carry. He could log online and see the teacher and all, but it was just not the same. Like getting that kid motivated outside of that little bit of time he was on there. I mean, because we tried it all. Florida had a pretty good system, even though there was a bunch of fighting about going to school and not here in the state. Florida Virtual Schools has an amazing system. So it was never about that. It's just being at home wasn't going to cut it for this kid. Like, he needed that structure, I guess. You know what I mean? That get up at a certain time, get ready, get out the door, that he had been primed for his whole life, suddenly stopped. That whole routine was suddenly stopped, and for a lot of kids that was devastating. And how do you get that back, right? So it was a whole thing. All right, back to the theories again. I'm down to 2, and I've been down to these 2 for quite a while now. And of course, mine is kidnapping. Obviously, she was kidnapped. Was it for ransom? Was it not? I don't see how if I'm going to stick with the kidnapped without the other theory coming into play, then it was for money. Whether or not the TMZ stuff is going to pan out, not just them, those very first, let me quit saying their name with it. The very first letter that came in, does it even mean anything? I still don't know for sure, but if it does, there's your ransom for money. And then what if it doesn't? Still could have been a ransom for money, and the people who sent letters are opportunists. But why would someone not send a ransom letter? Did something happen to the victim in the commission of the crime that made the whole thing change? And you cut your losses and you ran. I'm still with that theory, possibly. Other theory for me, and the only one that makes sense outside of kidnapping for ransom, is Stalker. Not a very popular opinion around here, I know. I've tried to go there a couple times. I've brought up a couple of other cases of that type of thing, and now all of a sudden it's being brought up again, including the cases I brought up, because it's not that far-fetched. If it's so simple that one of those prowlers in the night they got down there in Tucson with the 50 backpacks and 1,000 gloves, that's easier to spend 3 weeks talking about that possibility. But we cannot discuss Stalker possibility. I don't know why that would be so hard for it to even get to that conversation, especially considering victimology, right? Miss Nancy didn't seem to have a reason to be targeted at all. Unless you got a weird old lady who's just that old lady. There's some Karens in her neighborhood, don't get me wrong, but I don't know if Nancy was friends with those ladies. But her daughter's status certainly made her stand out. Like a shining star, like a beacon in the night. What happened to Harvey? Who knows? Hopefully the person hasn't sent any more letters, because apparently they've been all up in the IT department over there at Harvey's company, as they should, because if the letters are coming from in-house, then by God, you find that sick bastard, even if it's Harvey. I don't know where Harvey went. Hopefully Harvey went all the way home and decided it was time to be quiet, in case there's something to that shit. Because I know everybody's trying to tell me there's nothing to it. It's a hoax. It's opportunity. You could very well be right. If it's opportunistic people, they're sitting in another country while they're sending their emails, and that's why we haven't caught them yet. Or they've hidden themselves so well we have no fucking clue who they are. And I don't know if Tom is smart enough to pull that off. Or anybody. What do y'all think of the possibility of the for ransom? Take away the whole TMZ letters. Pretend no letters ever came from anywhere. If we need to do that. Do you think it was for ransom gone wrong? Y'all answer me in the chat if you want to. I can't get that scenario off the table yet. None of us know what to think, but I mean, I can think though. I mean, it makes no sense for a robbery gone wrong and take the person. It makes no sense for the SA part. Could have been that, yes, but I doubt it. Right? Why are you kidnapping somebody? Yeah, overseas 83. The reason I say that is because they haven't been caught yet. Don't y'all want to know who the fake email writer is and slap him in the face? How dare you do that? I do. Show me they weren't involved in her kidnapping, and show me we're going to punish them for doing that stupid shit. Why haven't we found them yet? Would it make sense that they're not even in our country? Because, you don't got to be in the same town to email somebody. And we don't get to just march across borders and arrest people or go question them. It's a whole thing involved with that, right? Are other countries willing to say, well, sure, FBI, come question this person to see if they sent an email from my country to yours? How's our relations with that country? Good? We good? So if we're convinced they're coming from the United States or they're coming from an idiot on the internet, why hadn't we caught the idiot on the internet? Ransom is from an opportunist. Yeah, I'm okay. So pretend we didn't get the ransom letters. If this was a ransom kidnapping, why did we never hear from them? Because if you kidnap somebody for money, you're going to want your money, right? And apparently we've not heard a word from a kidnapper that we got her. What could have happened? Something could have went wrong, terribly wrong, with your victim. And if you can't produce your victim alive and well, you got nothing but a failed kidnapping attempt. Now, the second theory, Stalker. Can anybody even fathom that could possibly be a problem or at play in this situation? That people aren't so evil, they aren't willing to do whatever it takes to harm another individual. We just saw the Tepe murders. That man drove from another state to find his ex-wife sleeping next to her other husband in the privacy of her own home, walks right in the house apparently and shoots them both dead for no apparent reason. And apparently he'd been stalking her for a long time. Remember that case? We were talking about it right before this case happened. We're like, how could he? Oh my God, that's horrible. She never knew he was doing all that. He was that close. He got all the way up in her house, man, while she slept in her bed next to her husband. A bit obsessed? Yeah, there's some details, Rachel. Not quite enough detail, but some things are saying that Savannah has had a female stalker in the past. And as Maureen will explain, those pesky little bitches never seem to go away. I think I brought that up too. How vindictive a woman could really be. Everybody wants to focus on that big mean monster of a man. Let me tell you what. Never proof of life. Obsessed, delusional fan. When Megan, sorry, was talking about her stalker, she was talking about how he told the investigators that she was communicating directly with him, on the TV when she was talking, that she was speaking directly to him and he was getting messages from her and receiving signals from her. Weirdo. Then you go to Jodie Foster, the man who shot President Reagan. He didn't do it because he was politically upset about a damn thing. He did it because he thought actress Jodie Foster wanted him to. So I don't see how it could be off the table. The question is, if you go with that theory, would it be a man or a woman stalker type individual? And what's that got to do with the guy at the door, right? You think the guy at the door would have been the person that would be the obsessed person, or just the hired gun of a obsessed person? Jed, it's hard to say, right? Like the guy in Jodie Foster's case, he did he want the recognition, or did he honestly legit do that because he thought she told him, didn't even think about the recognition? That's what, the guy who shot Rebecca Schaefer in the face when she opened the front door. Did he want recognition, or to show y'all, hey, I could do this, or almost show her I can do this, right? Hmm. Exactly. Who's the cook in the kitchen, right? Did some of us watch the same show last night? So I got some clip. I got us a clip. I got us a clip from that show because I know only a couple of us watch it because I see who all's in the chat, and I rarely recognize any of the names, but I'm there for the conversations sometimes, depending. Last night's panel was fantastic. I wish that the women had been given the floor a little more. And that's all I'll say about it. But yeah, great conversation came up out of this, right? And it was really the first time that I heard anybody talk about it in a way that because I want more information to see if my theory can even pan out. Because I can't die on the hill that my two theories are one or the other. This was a kidnapping gone wrong, or kidnapping gone right, and these letters are real, then something went wrong. Or stalker. I can't die on those hills. What if it was some random person who knew the housekeeper, who knew the babysitter, who knew the daughter's best friend? I don't know. It could be a lot of things. It was a great panel, Jet. So what I'm talking about, guys, is last night on the interview room, he had Maureen McConnell. And Maureen McConnell's our favorite new retired FBI agent who runs her own big security farm out there in California. I was first introduced to her by Brian Enton, and now she's been everywhere, and she's pretty fucking amazing. Straight shooter, I like that too. She was on the panel. Dr. Ann Burgess was also on the panel. They finally got Dr. Ann up there. And of course, Chris, and of course, Dr. Gary. Now, Dr. Gary I feel like may want to die on the hill that family's always going to be involved somewhere, because he seems a bit obsessed with family dynamics. And I don't know why, but I'm just going to leave it at that. Finally, the conversation moved a little. Did he, Sajoy? Did he really? Please, ma'am, I'm wanting to have that conversation. And people who know me know he's a hybrid killer. He goes beyond the books and beyond the study. He's your new study. Wake up, Dr. B. Sorry. That's the only thing I differ with him on, that is he kind of nailed some things, but that's kind of textbook stuff to nail, right? He's got him wrong in a lot of ways, in my opinion, in my humble little opinion. And if Dr. Yawn has taught me anything, your opinions are like assholes. Oops, I mean your degrees. I mean, never mind. Anyway, gotta move beyond the textbook sometimes. Kind of like those doctors who told me 32 years ago, your baby's gonna die. You know that because the textbook tells me he will. 36 years later, I've had so many apologies from doctors, I could write a book about them. But I gave them grace because I knew they were just going off their textbook. And it really wasn't their fault, I guess. Okay, let me get this where I need it. Oh, come here. Now, like I said, a lot of this conversation that I was, and when they went to talk about a certain thing, boy, Maureen perks up and perks up, and I'm like, finally, the conversation. And then it's like, it only got so far. So I really invite this conversation to continue. I would love to hear more about it. All right, let me get this pulled up and get it ready. Oh, goodness. I like Dr. B, don't get me wrong, but I have a different opinion than he does. And like I said, man, I've seen some crazy shit, man. I'm sorry. He did that big press conference with the attorney of Shannon Gilbert, and I saw that and I thought, wow, man, that's a lot to say. And yeah, it is a whole thing that gave me pause. And I evaluate my things on many things. Let me just say that. Again, the family dynamics, the family, the family, the family. Something happened in your family? Oh, goodness. Trying to evaluate the evaluee. That could be scary. Think about that. All right, let me get to my timestamp here. Lord. Now, the whole conversation that they do have is, to me, it's worth listening to the whole show if you guys want to do that. Um, one of you mods, if you can drop the link, it's from last night's show on the interview room. Oh, up here. Okay. They had a lot of great moving around conversations, but they moved into this part, and this is the part I want to talk about. Now, this part, I really didn't think about it in this way until it was mentioned, but I remember thinking, remember when in Savannah's last video, how we kind of were thinking that it was like she was trying to, speak directly to the person and gain some empathy, right? Then this conversation was brought up. Maureen didn't feel well. You felt bad. She's a tough cookie. She plundered right along through it. She's like, I'm here for it. I may have a low grade fever, but I'm here for it. I was like, you go, girl. And then she got tired at the end. Well, because somebody just was talking and talking and talking. But anyway, yeah, she was a trooper. She's probably worked through a lot of colds. Think about it. This lady's in the FBI, man. She was in the trenches. She done some shit none of us could even fathom. Like, it's just a cold, man. We're all like, we don't feel good. But yeah, she's awesome. All right, so this was some of their conversation from last night. Yeah, thank you for dropping that link. I appreciate it. It really was a good conversation. If y'all really want to hear good conversations versus a bunch of chatter on the street, like the literal street.
You can tell that she's just done.
Oh, yes.
Emotionally done.
She is, yeah.
But she's talking to a female.
Oh, she is? Why do you
Oh, she is? Why do you say that? He's talking about his take on Savannah's last video. And I can bring it up and show you guys in a minute, but think about going back to that last video. Remember how the first couple seemed to be very kind of scripted almost? This one felt so much more like personal. Something gave, now, feel how y'all want about people, like I do, right? But Chris's take was she talking to a female? And you can tell people are like, wait a minute, why would y'all think that? And I couldn't believe that they hadn't thought about that being a possibility. So it opens up a conversation.
say that?
She
She had a female stalker at one point.
Oh, interesting.
Oh,
She did, yeah.
how long ago?
I think it was several years ago, but they tend not to go away. They're pesky little bastards.
What? Dr. Ann's like, how long ago? Maureen's like, they tend to be pesky little bastards. I was like, can I clip that, man, and put it everywhere? Dr. Ann's like, tell me more. I need more.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, that's important.
I didn't realize she was talking to a female, Chris. Why do you say that? I
Well,
missed
some of the
that.
references in the verbiage is from the Disney movie Frozen.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Huh.
Some of the verbiage is, that's I don't think the BAU plugged that one together. I think they did the other ones, but I think that was kind of off the cuff, and she was
Well, it
just
could have been her security team because she has a really good one, apparently.
okay.
But I don't know that she would have.
And Maureen would know because that's her job as well, her company. They do that security. Maureen be out there fingerprinting cars for clients. Me and Butterfly's like, who's the client? But anyway, she's, been to put her feelers out and already is aware of who the security team works for, what company, and they're very good. Now they're getting a little curious as to a female. What do y'all think? Anything? Do y'all feel like she might have been speaking to a female per se, or just trying to gain empathy, or do we need to wrap our process it right? I'm like, because I didn't get the take that she was speaking to a female, but to possibly to the empathy of the person who took her. So it was interesting to see why he thought it could be a female and their reactions to it.
Done it without running it by the BAU folks, but I guess anything's possible.
Yeah, I could be totally wrong, but I thought that was a really interesting correlation. She used, and it was, it was almost verbatim. Not, and it was only a few words. It was only a few sentences.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, anyway, I couldn't agree with your thought process more, Chris. Thank you so much, Mama. Please tell my wife. I found it weird, all communication as went to those two in particular. Why those two? They're not the ones on TV every day. So do they know them? Thank you. And brother-in-law headed the whole operation. He did durable power of attorney to Annie 6 months prior. Well, that's the kind of information that we definitely would want to tie together if, in fact, that was
True.
tightened up. Perp anticipates steps.
So, right, Rachel. Might be a female too, Kentucky says. So here's the thing. Females can get males to do a lot of things for them. I think we can all get behind the guy at the front door. It might have just been the hired gun, right? We said that here on the shows previously. But this guy just appears to be maybe the hired gun to go in. Now, if you got an elaborate kidnapping scheme, of course you got your hired guns to go in. But if you got a stalker, and possibly a female stalker, she may need a hired gun to go in. Guess she got a guy willing to go that far for her? That's not too far-fetched, right?
On porch, bites light before. Thank you. Great comment. Look at my ex-MLB player convicted of killing parents-in-law. He had a backpack that looked full for Leaf guy. Maybe it did not. Yeah, that's the guy caught on video going up to the walkway at his parents up in, I think, Canada.
I should fast forward.
Lake Tahoe. This needs to be 3 hours plus live. Mikey, these things are. This is long format. There's no question, and my guests are gracious enough to hang around.
Not for much longer.
Yeah.
Okay, and at any time you got to check out
medication.
just
Yeah.
say, hey. But will you come back though at some point?
At some point.
Have we
price is right,
lowered your property values enough, to where you would consider moving back into the neighborhood here?
If the price is right, yeah, for sure.
Okay, price is right. Okay. If I got
Carrie, you think there's a possibility that guy at the door was a woman? I've never felt that it was a woman. That's just me personally, observing the way they walk, the way they carry because I'm looking at all kinds of things when I look at this stuff, even down to the way he's maneuvering the vines. But I didn't ever get the impression that could possibly be a woman. There was one case where I wondered, and it was the lady who was working out at the church gym, and the assailant entered, and they have video of the person, and they're completely covered up head to toe. You cannot tell who it is, but the gait and the way they walked, and it turned out it was a female stalker, comes to find out. But anyway, that's the only time I've ever seen body cam or any kind of surveillance trying to figure out if I'm dealing with a man or a woman, was really the only time. This one I never thought it was, but I guess I could see people thinking that it might be. I don't think that's a woman at the door, but there's a good chance the woman who put him at the door, or the person who put him at the door, is a woman.
because we're going to get Coop.
Because your motive wouldn't be for money. But there's a very different motive, right, for a stalker than there is for a kidnapper. The only motive a kidnapper could have is for money. The motives for a stalker could be many, especially, I'm going to hurt you and you're going to feel it and you're going to know it. The person's eyes in the video were always interesting to me, and apparently they've always interested Maureen as well. Her take and my take on what was up with his eyes slightly differ, because there were so many weird colorized photos floating around that everybody was making on their phones. I could do it too. We only have black and white images to go by, right? Because everybody's color image was different colors. We've shown that here. The guy had on 3 different color hats, if I go by all the internet's colorized photos. But there was something up with his eyes. And there was something like, to me, I felt distinctive looking about the eyes. There's going to be something about them. Now, someone's mentioned there could be a scar. I think in this episode is when Chris says an ophthalmologist chimed in and said he saw a cyst. People claim they see a scar. Maureen thinks the guy was high. I think she's right, but what he was high on, I think we have a very different opinion on that. She says weed. No, ma'am. Weed can be very bad for a lot of people, but I don't think it's weed because of the way the eyes look to me. Is something like a methamphetamine, or not meth, but an amphetamine type drug. People say, well, how could you do your drugs and pull that off? Because if you've got a high tolerance and you're used to functioning with it, functioning without it might be a little difficult. So keep that in mind as well. Now, I don't know, again, what this person was doing at the front door, if it's man or a woman, high on something or not. The cook in the kitchen or the hired help.
He's feeling better. I'd love to get Greg and maybe get Fitz and kind of put another great panel together.
Now, he mentioned Fitz. They're all talking about Fitz, Jim Fitzgerald. I have a clip from him as well in his profile that he gave to Enton over the weekend. Now they're all wanting to talk to Fitz.
So you could have me for $19.99.
Yeah, Gary's cheap. Yeah, it's because he's from Manhattan.
And Chris is cheaper. Yeah.
whatever Gary said, I'm 20% cheaper. That's the way it rolls.
Exactly.
Chris, ever since you guys highlight the condensed, unrealistic 2-minute garage timing window in the last dream, I can't stop thinking about it. They need to reenact that. Something is not right. Thank you, Janine. I agree with you, but we will find out. That is an anomaly.
So now we're hearing that the 2-minute garage open door incident was based on Tom's report, that it took her 2 minutes to get into the garage and shut the garage and him leave. I couldn't tell you what's true, if that's the true thing, or if there was a way they know for sure the garage door opener. It's word salad from the sheriff, so it's off the table in my head. I don't want it to clutter me up, right? It's going to get me sidetracked on trying to profile my people with the damn details of the damn garage door. I'll get there eventually, but right now I'm done with that. 2 minutes to get in there. I don't think that's too far-fetched for 2 minutes, regardless of how they come up with it, because once the door opens and you take 1, 2, 3 steps in and it closes, Miss Nancy wasn't so feeble. She walked like a fucking turtle. Oh, I got a step. Oh, I got another one. 10 minutes later, we're in the garage. That's what they're selling me
In this investigative process. And one of the things that you learn over time, it's the very minutia pieces of the puzzle.
Rachel, how do y'all think the blood got at the front patio? Does that not seem like the point of exit? If they brought Miss Nancy out of any other door, why do I have her blood at the front of the house? Right? Because y'all got y'all's charts. Because we don't see any blood outside of the garage. We see nothing. No tampering with any other doors. No broken windows. No blood visible anywhere else except that front patio. And it's there for a reason. I don't think Miss Nancy peered out her door at 147, saw a masked man, and opened it to say, "What are you doing?" And he punched her. I don't think that happened.
It's not the gigantic pieces where you can put all the corners together. It's the ones that you just go, okay, I don't know where this one fits yet, but we need to figure this piece of the puzzle out.
Or it doesn't fit at all.
Or it doesn't fit at all. And this one just doesn't fit at all. And at any time, if Ann, or Gary or Maureen, if you feel that if you need to bounce, please, don't feel obligated.
Right.
Doctor,
I'm going to take off.
Thank you.
All right, guys. So if you go back in time to a little earlier in their conversation, Chris is reading off stuff, and something makes him go something about a woman. And that's when Maureen, that starts that whole conversation. She's like, why woman? And that's when Dr. Ann elaborates a little more. And that's when Maureen talks about there was a stalker in the past. I don't know where she got that information, because even in the beginning, I tried to look any information about, does this woman have a stalker? Were there ever any stories out there? I couldn't find anything. Butterfly has even tried to help me find. We've looked. We don't see it. Unless I don't know when it even happened. So I don't know. I'm not saying her information is wrong. I'm not saying that at all. But if that's true, and she has had one in the past, what happened? Was there any kind of prosecution? I even heard some little blurb about the person did do some jail time, but still tried to reach out while in jail. But I can't find any information about that. I don't know if this has been scrubbed, because there may be something to this. Now, I need to find the timestamp, and I need to actually do that. Let me make a note, because there was another thing Maureen brought up, and if you guys want to go watch that, I encourage you to do it, because she brings up the ransom notes, and in a way that absolutely told me they've never been taken off her table. Just like they're probably not off the FBI's table. Which then takes me back to, why haven't we caught them? And where are they? Because she starts talking about the second letter writer and checking the validity of these letters. And is it almost, is it possible that the second writer was double crossed, or shit went south and we can't pull this off anymore? Then that letter comes out. I can give you information. Now, if they've been told, sit your ass down with your little letters, or else, or we got you, or something to that effect. She kind of explores that whole thing. And I thought, wait a minute. Why are you even exploring that if we're all pretending they're nothing? Right? And she's from the FBI, so you can't tell me if she's thought about it and exploring it. They're not either, because it's absolutely important to find out who's writing those letters. What if that very first one was legit and all the rest that followed was an opportunistic person? Once they demanded proof of life, whoever sent the original letter never reached out again, except one time. When they first told her, we took Nancy, here's how you know it's us. And they're like, okay, well now show us proof of life. Nothing since then, crickets. Except for text message boy out of Cali and another guy who claims he saw some shit go down south of the border. I don't know. It's where I'm sitting with my two theories. I just was curious what you guys thought. Does your theories evolve and develop? Do you even have a running theory, right? And how could you get behind a possible stalker scenario? Because the stalker's not out to get money. They're only out for one thing, and right now they've succeeded in it. If that's the case, humiliation, scare them to death, show you, and I got you, now you're going to suffer and hurt the way I want you to. That's what motivates stalkers. Look what happened in the Tepe household. That man just could not stand that beautiful woman found a man to share her life with and raise beautiful babies and have a cute little house and live happily ever after. He just fucking couldn't stand it. He could not live knowing that was happening. So he decided to go to her house in the dead of the night and walk in and kill him. If I see that play out before my very eyes, I can't say it didn't happen here. It shouldn't be ruled out anyway. And I know we've seen no evidence of that, but I've seen no evidence of anything else either, right? I'd love to know what you guys think in the chat. Are we just so far, we've had so many theories rambling, we just can't think straight anymore. I get it. That's why I had to take a couple days off from all that. I have to really just sit with my own thoughts. Because if I take into account everything else being said, it's like the half of that don't even make sense. I shouldn't even have it in my head, right? I just shouldn't. So sitting with my own thoughts and processing facts that we do know. Blood on the front porch tells me they came out the front door. That's about all I know. A camera was taken off the front porch. That I know. Beyond that, don't know shit. Oh, there was probably a man at the front door. There was a person at the front door. That we know. Other than that, what do we know? 40 names on a list of paper that bought gun holsters and tips that came in on random people. I don't know. Butterfly says, take ransom off the table. And although rare, what if Miss Nancy is the one that was stalked? Well, that's not off the table, but I don't know how, I can't figure out why somebody would stalk her directly for her outside of her daughter's fame, right? Just like I'm going to get Miss Nancy. She's, you know what? I don't know. Would it just, I'm going to get her back. She fired me. I can't get another cleaning job now. She accused me of stealing from her home, and now my company is aware of it. I've thought about all the possibilities, but according to the sheriff, we got DNA from in the house, and they've done swabbed all the people that would have had access to the home. So then I have to, why would somebody target Miss Nancy directly? What's she do? She cheat at Mahjong, right? But putting the spotlight on Savannah's hometown was NBC's fault, but could that have triggered a stalker? Oh yeah, you're in your great life. Stalker probably already knows where Savannah was from. But like Maureen said, they never really go away. So this show comes out 3 months before the gym show, which would have been provided the great cover for all the people that would have been in town. 3 months to ponder on, look at that girl, man. She's got my job. She didn't let me have my internship. She said I was not going to make. I don't know. It could be somebody who worked in Savannah Guthrie's home that felt slighted. Right? She accused me of stealing an item from her mansion. She doesn't respect me as an individual. They can go, people have their thoughts in their head. Would it be a direct coworker? Are they going to be so obsessed and psychotic behind the scenes that they're going to do that? And then we're all going to go, damn, yo, what's that lady's name? Her co-host? One of them? No, I don't think it's like that, right? As far as a coworker, like somebody lower in the office, intern maybe, somebody who strived to be like her one day as they work their way up that ladder. I don't know. There's endless possibilities when it comes to stalker. It could have been Joe Blow sitting on the couch one day watching the morning news and become completely obsessed with this woman for no reason. For no reason, right? She never met him in their life. Could absolutely be a man. It could be the guy at the front door as the cook in the kitchen. I don't know. But I can't take the possibility of a female stalker behind the scenes pulling the strings either, especially with no communication to demand more ransom. That's weird, right? That has not been happening. I don't know nothing about this trip to Italy, and as far as the family goes, there's a lot being said about the family out there still. And as I pointed out at the top of the show, lawsuits occur and stuff like that. So yeah, right now the Italy trip. You talking about the family of Miss Guthrie? Yeah. But see, is that a distraction? If I stay so focused on the family, am I forgetting other possible theories? Am I got tunnel vision now? Right? Like, we don't want investigators to do that. We do not like it when investigators get tunnel vision. We call that shit out in cases. I don't want to get tunnel vision either and stay solely focused on a family and their dynamics. You know what I mean? I can't let that be the only thing. Yeah, you're not getting directly to Savannah because of her security team, and it should have been a theory that was always explored in my mind, Rachel, especially considering the high profile of Savannah Guthrie. That should never, ever have not been on the table, considering history with celebrity stalkers, right? It's a whole thing. It didn't just start today. Um, that like I just never could understand why that theory was never really explored a ton. And what about emails Savannah may have gotten that she never actually opened? Maureen, and that they talk about that in that episode as well. That you can bet her team jumped on that to go through everything in her emails, everything, any communications that she. If you're a celebrity and you're getting random emails, people you don't know, are you even opening those emails, right? Um, Whatever. You can bet, or let's hope, that they actually looked at every single piece of that. And if they really did, say the FBI does suspect that to be the case, man, they're keeping that shit pretty tight lipped because that has not leaked out, right? We've heard about the infighting with the sheriff. We've heard about some DNA in the house and 40 names on a list and a couple of raids. But that's it. We're not hearing much about these ransom letters. We're not here. It's like they almost want that story to go away. But they couldn't get Harvey to shut the fuck up. Maybe they did now. Maybe his source called him up and said, dude, you really got to sit down for a minute. We're trying to figure this out. And you're, I don't know. Oh, yeah, California's got stuff that, like the team that she's talking about there, Rachel. Chris was a cop out in LA, in the area there, and so he talks about like a task force basically, or a team. They get made aware when there's stalkers. You know, when celebrities have a legal issue, they file complaints. They have a little team that works on that. Now, they may have records within their department if Savannah ever called police. See, if she ever called police. What if she got a threat one time and thought, it's just another weirdo threat? Because apparently these celebrities are used to getting weirdo threats. How do you know which ones to take seriously and which ones not to, right? Staff member fired 8 years ago. Uh-oh, I haven't heard about anybody specific. So I can't speak on specific, and I will not name people yet. Please don't do that in the chat. I don't want to get sued. But it's worth exploring because you have to go back. Now, that's one thing they would look at, right? Lynn B, is that how you say it? Who has been terminated? Not only in your professional life, but in your personal life. Assistants, people who worked in the home, staff members, right? They're going to look at anybody who was fired that may or may not have beef about that. Or let's hope they do, right? I'm trying not to lose faith in the investigation. I'm trying not to lose faith in this investigation. I just can't figure out why it's so hard to find Miss Nancy. Not even a solid lead. Now, I guess I can because they didn't have any on Brian Koberger until they got a name from IGG. And I don't know if we can ever get there from this case, considering we got a mixture of unknown DNAs, right? Outside of a DNA chance of IDing the guy at the door, good luck finding the paper trail on the clothes he bought at Walmart. I'm hoping that turns up a lead for them, because now we know, going back in time, that they absolutely had all of Brian Koberger's purchases, and now we're seeing the guy at the Walmart buying everything, right? Once they figured out and once they got his name and began doing warrants and investigation, they're like, oh shit, 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 shit. Thank God they found all of that, and that, or else we might be at trial right now with Brian Koberger. Might have went to trial. I don't know. I appreciate the conversation they had last night on the show, because it opened up a whole other door of possibilities that might actually make sense versus screaming it don't make sense. Because, man, I got tired of that in the Idaho 4 case. Make it make sense. It don't make sense. Hell no, it don't, because it's got nothing to do with it, right? So, just like robbery gone wrong, don't make any sense. I lost that thought a long time ago. So I'm always interested to see if you guys have moved different theories. Do y'all keep running theories? Do you, are we just seeing what's out there? And I don't even know what's out there today. Probably nothing. Butterfly, Rachel, have y'all seen anything pop off since we've been here? Internet's giving some people hell. I'm kind of getting hungry. I think it might be time to go get lunch. And I wish that some people would move it, like Cece's conversation with Ashley about the original account who tweeted the nonsense about the Florida lab devastating. That should have been called out, and it probably would have cleared up a lot of things. I'm not saying she herself needed to do that, because it's not her job, but at least she finally said something, and I could hear it with my own ears and be like, damn. Hang on, I gotta read this message. Lord? Okay. All right. Yes. Let's all continue to pray for Miss Nancy. Send her all the good vibes you can. Throw yellow hearts in the chat for her. That she's holding on. Because remember, we also talked about how a victim can try to gain empathy with their captor by being their friend. Like Elizabeth Smart, a child did it for 9 months to save her own self, because that was going to be the only thing to save her, was herself. So she had enough sense to know, if I play this right, I might can survive it. I don't think it's not far-fetched for me to think Miss Nancy would do the same thing. What are you making for dinner, Butterfly? Maybe I don't want to know. Better not be brisket, ma'am. Better not. Yeah. I don't know, guys. The more time that goes by, I think we all lose hope a little with it. All I can do is hope that if it's a kidnapping, Miss Nancy's no longer with us. If it's a stalker, I'm at 50-50, and I have reasons for thinking yes, because you might need a knight in shining armor to come in and save the day for you. Possible theory. But stalker, I got a better chance of her being alive versus a kidnapper who hasn't demanded ransom. Baby back ribs, stop it, Tricia. Okay, forget it. Y'all can't mention the ribs or the brisket or anything like that. Because I'll be eating that every day if I could. I could sit down with a big plate of brisket and ribs, and I'm a tiny person, and I promise you I could eat that for 3 hours solid. Just take my time, savor it. Steak with mashed potatoes and veggies. Always a good choice. Always, always. It's getting to be a long time now for us. It's too much time, right? With each passing day. Rachel got the smoked chicken. Good Lord, y'all. Now I need to get off of here. I need to find me a man with his own house that likes to cook. Like, he'll bring it to me when it's ready, then he'll leave. But you got to be a good, clean cook. I'm super picky. Rolled tacos. All right, I don't know what I'm gonna have yet. It's a toss up. No brisket, but soon. Hey, if you come down this summer, there's no question we have got to go get brisket together. I've already got a place picked out. All right. The last two times Butterflies made it my way, something has happened and I have not been able to link up with her. But this year ain't freaking happening. It's going down, and we're gonna have brisket. May not be her hubby's, but it'll be close. Maybe. Forrest, I think we're in the same boat, my friend. I think we might be in the same boat. I'm like, kind of like forgot about all that today. I'll just eat when I get hungry. Then I'm like, well, what are you gonna eat? I'm single, y'all, so I don't like have a plan of action. I eat when I eat. I sleep when I sleep. I do what I want when I want. I tell my ego where to fly. All right, guys. Yep, y'all keep the flame alive for Miss Nancy, right? And hold the whole family if you want, and hopefully they get answers soon, real soon. All right, guys, we'll probably be back tomorrow morning with an update. I do want to present the case, the Caleb Flynn, Ashley Flynn case. The guy's got to go to court. So what happened was he calls 911, and this is a case out of Ohio, and he tells the 911 operator, thinks he's a woman, and she's not getting a clear picture of what's happening. And I'm not sure why, but whatever. But he tells the 911 caller that a robbery gone wrong. Go figure. Man comes in the house, wife is shot in the head at least twice, but his daughters are in the other room asleep. But yet he's not gone to check on the daughters, right? It was the whole thing. Turns out he's now been arrested and charged with murdering his wife. And he was a youth group pastor type guy, ex-American Idol contestant, good reputation within the community, great religious guy. Shot and killed his wife while his two little girls were in the next room asleep, and he never checked on them. It's weird. Anyway, there's a whole lot there. I wanted to kind of get into that case with you guys. There is audio of the 911 call out there. Plunder, shout out, because she was the first one to release it, but more has been released, and I also have documents to go with it. So we'll get to that in the morning, and we'll start looking into that a little bit, what little bit we do have of it. Just hold on one second, guys. Okay, sorry. But anyway, I want to talk about that case with you guys a little bit in the morning and updates that may have come down in Miss Nancy's case. Investigators in the love too, and hopefully they can make some headway through all of this digital and receipts they're combing through. Yeah, you're watching the Rickens trial. I can't with that lady. I cannot with that lady. I'll keep up with the headlines of it all. It's too much. I got enough going on with that damn freaking lady. I don't know why I feel that way, but I do. She's never been appealing to me. There was something about her whole vibe, her whole look. I never ever cared for her. But I know that trial's going on. So yeah, y'all keep up with that if you want. Were you watching it, Rach, on Court TV or who? I don't even know who's. I guess they're all talking about it, the trial channels or whatever. So y'all go check that out if y'all want to get your updates on that. I couldn't even begin to tell you an update because I have not followed it like that. But I do know it's popping off. But it's just, I'm preoccupied with other things. All right, guys, thank y'all for coming in. I appreciate y'all so much. Y'all know to be safe on them social media streets. My God, apparently we can't trust nobody. All right, guys, y'all have a good evening. Grab some dinner and all the things, and I'll see you back here tomorrow, hopefully. Have a good one.
Thank you all for watching this here video. Please like and subscribe and follow. Much love from Little Yas to each